space-time transaction. Exchanging food for the elf princess at the start. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401. Is this your trump card? If this is all, I'm afraid it's not enough, compared with the gods, who were sharpening their knives. Chiang, who was quietly watching all this happening from the outside, had a somewhat solemn expression. He knew very well that attacks of this level were indeed invincible to a certain extent in the magical world, but they were still far behind against those demigods and gods. Regarding the situation just now, Chiang asked himself that with his own strength, he could easily avoid it and leave the place that was dangerous to him. He is one of the strongest among the gods in the magical world, but he is not the strongest yet. Even what he can do, other gods can naturally do. Thinking of this, his expression turned gloomy, his eyes tightly waiting for the explosion area, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Yaoyu, who was standing behind him, said in a deep voice, "So what do you mean?" Chiang's expression did not change when he heard this. After taking a few deep breaths, he turned his head and looked at the huge gate of time and space from a distance. Specifically, he looked at the high platform in the center of the gate of time and space and finally landed on a person. Not Wei, not Suyi, but Xinghan behind Suyi. Although the distance is hundreds of kilometers, with the strength of his god, it is naturally no problem to see such a distance. Xinghan also seemed to feel something in his heart. The moment he looked over, he turned his head and looked over the two, looked at each other in the air, and then Xinghan looked away indifferently, as if he didn't even bother to look at him. Chiang took a deep breath, and a few drops of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. She's very strong. Who? Yaoyu on the side was a little confused. Seeing Kai Yang, she didn't answer and said, "The top priority is what choice should we make now? If it was really the trump card prepared by that little girl we were just now, and there is no backup plan, we may have to change our strategy. You are the head of the family and you have to make a decision. Keep the previous strategy unchanged. The gate of time and space belongs to the descendants of our Chiang family. If outsiders come to rob it, we old guys will naturally have to help. We must not do anything that will hold us back," Chiang said without hesitation. If he was still a little wavering when he saw the nuclear explosion, then when he saw the star mocks, he immediately realized that Wu Wei and Suyi, the visitor from another world, probably had far more than that. As a veteran god, of course he knew Star Prayer, a rising star with such amazing talent. We even met just 3 years ago. Although the Star Prayer at that time was known as one of the strongest demigods and had the ability to transcend levels and kill gods, it was still not enough for him. However, the feeling that Star Prayer gave him now was very different from 3 years ago. Just looking at each other in the air, the oppressive feeling made him feel suffocated. He could feel that if he were to fight against the current Star Prayer with his strength, he would probably have no choice but to flee in a panic, and whether he could even escape was a matter of debate. This woman is very dangerous now. This is a hint given by the mysterious spiritual sense of the cultivator in 3 years. If it were in the magical world, no matter how amazing the Star Prayer was, it would not be possible to reach this level. Not to mention that he also knew that Star Prayer had gone down that dead end before, and it was impossible to achieve such strength in the environment and system of the magical world. Apparently, her powers come from another world. Then the real power behind this different world is probably not just these seemingly fancy weapons, but a more complete training system and a more perfect training environment. It is even very possible that there are more powerful practitioners. If those gods just triggered a nuclear bomb strike and felt that they had forced out the trump card of the other world and Mengchuan City, something big would definitely happen. Chiang just wants to be a wally. After all, his conditions are here. Wei Wei, the master of the gate of time and space in the magical world, is his descendant, and she is a veteran god herself. Not only is she highly respected in this group, she is also a veteran and strong person who rarely loses. He can team up on both sides, and after joining the team, he can get the benefits brought by the gate of time and space point, so now it's natural for him to side with whichever side can win point. And judging from the information he got, these gods might be in serious trouble point, because the gods are missing an extremely critical piece of information point, that is Xinghan, or the person who prays for stars. Xinghan's whereabouts have always been strange, or in other words, there are no gods and demigods in the entire magical world whose whereabouts are not strange and erratic point. Therefore, almost no one knew that Xinghan came to Mengchuan City, then disappeared in Mengchuan City, and never appeared in the magical world again point. That is to say, Mengchuan City is the territory of the Qiang Empire. Before Qiang came, he mobilized his own forces to carefully check the past of Mengchuan City and Wei, a descendant, and unexpectedly discovered that she had a past relationship with the Star Prayer. Only then did they learn about the existence of Xinghan. It was impossible for Wei in the other world not to understand the power of the gods. Therefore, they believed Wei's words, and believed that Wei and others had the ability to deal with those gods, but other gods don't know this. They thought that these people from other worlds had no idea how powerful the gods were, and they were using these firecrackers as trump cards to defeat them. Point. This is caused by the lack of key information point. If Kai Yang were to tell these people this news now, they probably wouldn't have to watch the follow-up. With these gods being cunning and afraid of death, they would scatter and run away in a minute point. But would he tell them? Talk nonsense. To put it bluntly, these gods are his competitors, and he hopes that all his opponents will die here. Point. By then, he will be one of the few gods in the magic world, and the remaining gods will basically be his descendants. Kai Yang's family will win directly when these gods in the magic world were winning. Su Yi looked at the battlefield that was gradually settling down and returning to calm, and his expression was not much turbulent. Point. To put it bluntly, this wave was his prediction of the gods' predictions, and he gave the magic world a big one in advance, actively exposing his trump card, letting those cunning older mortals fall for it, and paving the way for the next step. Point. Everyone is not a good person. Even in this seemingly direct confrontation battlefield, it is full of intrigues and calculations. But even if you are a 1,000-year-old fox, can you still outsmart AI? Based on Xinghan's understanding of these gods, Xianxu has long established a calculation model to comprehensively calculate the tens of thousands of different choices that the gods may make in this incident. After further screening, it is not difficult to calculate the probability of the other party using the most powerful method to fight the enemy. Point. It is of course very simple to calculate what the other party will do and then prepare a response. Chapter 403. Wei looked back at Su Yi. After seeing Su Yi nodded, she immediately took a step forward and said, "What are you calling me for? The true god has come. Why don't you worship him?" The same thing again. Wei inexplicably felt that this conversation was a bit familiar, as if she had heard it a few days ago, so she simply said it again according to the answer she gave a few days ago. According to the laws of the Qiang Empire, this king does not need to worship anyone in his fiefdom. Can you tell the difference between gods and humans? The god looked directly at Wei, his golden eyes seeming to contain supreme majesty. Point. That kind of dominating aura above and below made Wei speechless for a moment. Point. Momentum is often like this, illusory, but it is something that actually exists. The inconspicuous movements and demeanor of a person who has been in a high position for a long time can bring a strong sense of oppression to people. Point. This thing is not an attack, so it is naturally not within the protection range of the gate of time and space. Point. Wei didn't know how to answer. As a person from the magical world, when she faced these gods who used to be aloof, her momentum would naturally become weaker, but she can't say it, and Su can. Point. Hearing this, Su Yi sneered and said, "A cultivator with a little bit of strength dares to call himself a god. Wouldn't he be crowned a monkey after hearing it? It would make people laugh. That person has been in the magical world for who knows how long. How had he ever heard of such a straightforward and borderless confrontation?" Immediately, he couldn't hold himself any longer, and a look of anger visible to the naked eye flashed in his indifferent eyes. "You, what about me? HMPH, you are barbarians from another world who don't know etiquette. Let me wait until then and slowly train you on what to do when you see the true god." The god snorted coldly and looked at Suyi as if he were looking at a dead person. As a god, his own strength is much stronger than that of Suyi. Naturally, it can be seen that Suyi has some strength, but at most it is equivalent to the level of a 9th level warrior in his eyes. They were like cannon fodder and not worth mentioning at all. Of course there is no fear. After saying that, without waiting for Suyi to answer, he looked at Weiwei again. Queen mention, you rashly attracted barbarians from outside the region and poisoned the common people. What crime should you do? Weiwei also came back to her senses at this moment and once again faced the god's eyes that seemed to have infinite majesty. She did not retreat at all and said bluntly, this king has introduced the power of the outside world to defend the aliens from the north and prevent the alien armies from plundering from the south. Internally, I have obtained a large amount of food, clothing and other basic materials from the outside world to protect the country and protect the people of the Menchuan kingdom from the suffering of war. What's the crime? On the contrary, you false gods have stolen the destiny of heaven, occupied resources, and stood high above the 9 heavens, without caring about the survival of all people. You regard the welfare of all people as child's play, and use blood and fire wars to kill time. When it comes to poisoning the people, I'm not as good as you. You claim to be a god and are worshipped by all people, but you have done nothing to benefit the people of the world. Instead, you have put shackles on the world. You have used your own brute force to create a class that has not changed for hundreds of thousands of years, allowing countless people in the world to become your nourishment. You are worthy enough to accuse me. The god was stunned again. Suyi from another world dared to confront him. Although it surprised him, he could still accept it. After thinking about it, just treat them as barbarians from another world who don't know the power of gods. But Weiwei, who was born and raised in the magical world and came from a noble family, dared to be so rude to him, which was beyond his expectation. Even though the old monster standing behind Weiwei is Kai Yang, she is just a junior after all, and she is not Kai Yang herself. Why would she dare to confront another god like this? He was just about to say something more, but Weiwei, who had already started talking, didn't give him a chance at all and went straight to full fire. How is this king? You claim to be gods, claim to be supreme, but in fact, your path has been cut off by stronger beings. If you dare not fight against those beings, you can only huddle in this 3/4 acre of land. You are the weaklings, and you pride yourself on being gods. How dare a frog at the bottom of a well and a dog with a broken spine dare to bark here? When it comes to running a country, she is not good at it. When it comes to trolling people, when she, an imperial princess who is supposed to be noble and elegant, but has been traveling across the continent since she was a child and has seen everyone, lets go of her reserve, it becomes very lively. Sure enough, if she said something against these gods earlier, the reason why these gods were unhappy was because they thought her words were disrespectful. So now her words are undoubtedly poking the backbone of these gods. To put it bluntly, these gods in the magical world are just the stronger sheep among the sheep that were kept in captivity by the more powerful being in the dark. In the final analysis, they are just ants at the mercy of others. They desire to reach a higher realm and a more free and unfettered cultivation environment. But after guessing that everything in this world is controlled by others, they don't have the courage to challenge the person behind the scenes, and few even dare to violate the rules set by others. Some, such as the gods who took the path of Xinghan, are basically dead. Who among the survivors is not a mediocre person? Everyone is a coward who is greedy for life and afraid of death, which means that everyone is not. In addition, the existence behind the scenes that controls the world never shows up. Over time, as the most powerful cultivators in the world, they seem to have forgotten that they were also ants in captivity. But now, Weiwei had completely shattered all their arrogance with just a few words. Ignorant young man, how dare you do this? Die. Once a person's defense is broken, he will become red hot, and once he becomes red hot, he will lose his mind. And now these gods are undoubtedly a little broken by Weiwei's attack. They are too lazy to say those high sounding trash words to try to make Weiwei hand over the control of the gate of time and space, but they plan to teach this ignorant girl a lesson first. Above the 9 heavens, A terrifying big hand condensed instantly and slapped it directly. However, boom, the big hand slapped on the defensive barrier of the gate of time and space, but it was like an egg hitting a stone, and it collapsed instantly. But the defensive barrier of the gate of time and space did not even fluctuate at all. Oh, are you anxious now? Don't be anxious, you will be anxious later. So, Yi sneered and took a step forward. The Destiny level power armor from the interstellar world appeared instantly and covered his whole body. The black and red armor made his originally very well proportioned figure directly become a perfect 9-head body, more than 2 meters tall, full of power. The hideous bone spurs on the power armor made him look extremely handsome. After wearing it, this thing can actually only make a person have the strength of a 7th level warrior, which is not as good as Su Yi's current strength. But it's handsome. At this time, Su Yi thinks it's better to be handsome. The next moment, a 3-meter high exquisite black and purple banner appeared behind Su Yi. It's almost time, and it's time to send you off. Chapter 404. The moment Su Yi took the initiative to leave the defense range of the gate of space and time and sacrifice the 10,000 souls banner, the many gods who appeared in the sky immediately had a bad premonition. The strange armor on him was nothing. In the perception of these gods, there was almost no threat. It just looked more bluffing. But when they saw the 10,000 souls banner behind Su Yi, the fear and trembling from the depths of their souls almost instantly eroded all their reason. Facing this terrifying magic weapon that seemed to suck people's souls in at a glance, all the gods, including the man who was full of force a second ago and stood on the 9 heavens to question Wei, all chose to run away directly. Want to run now? It's too late. Su Yi snorted coldly, and the 10,000 souls banner behind him glowed purple and moved without wind. The purple divine light above the 9 heavens turned into a large formation engraved with complex patterns. Once it appeared, it covered the entire world, visible to the naked eye like a giant umbrella. The huge plane chosen by Wei was completely covered by this huge formation pattern. The sky, which was a little gloomy but still bright, suddenly fell into darkness, with only a little purple light shining above the head. If someone looked up and looked at these dark purple lines carefully at this time, they could easily see that this was a huge picture of hell, with countless wronged souls and evil spirits in the picture vividly, as if they were still wailing and screaming. With the speed of the gods' escape, facing the huge area spread out by the 10,000 souls banner in an instant, they were all trapped inside. Even if some gods hurriedly attacked this strange space barrier, the divine power that was almost omnipotent in the magic world in the past could not shake it in the face of these strange purple light curtains. It was a kind of powerlessness of a baby still in swaddling clothes facing an adult, which was not a heavy weight at all. Trapped in it, they could only let the other party manipulate them. Everyone, now that you're here, why are you in such a hurry to leave in such a space? Su Yi, as the master of the 10,000 souls banner, is a real god. Just speaking lightly, his voice is like the oracle of the 9 heavens, filling the entire small world. It strikes directly into the hearts of all the gods. Before he really made a move, he could make the souls of these high and mighty gods tremble. Misunderstanding. It's all misunderstanding. We are all here to welcome the distinguished guests from another world. We have no ill intentions. Let the distinguished guests know that I, the little god King Ai, have admired your world for a long time. This time I came here just to invite the distinguished guests to my palace. I have prepared the best wine and meat in the magic world in the palace, just waiting for the distinguished guests to come. Yes, we are all here to invite the distinguished guests. As for those armies, they are just some extras we prepared for today's event. That's right. It's mainly because we can't agree on who will invite the distinguished guests first, so we plan to let our forces perform in front of the distinguished guests first. Whoever wins will invite the distinguished guests first. We have no second thoughts. If the distinguished guests think this magic world is acceptable, you will be the common master of the world in the future, and we are all your most loyal servants. Seeing that the situation was not right, or when they were trapped in the 10,000 souls banner, these people immediately realized that if they didn't do something, they would definitely die today point. So these old guys who have lived for who knows how many years suddenly came to their senses and knelt down at the speed of light point. You and I talked a lot of nonsense, and we turned black into white, and we just said, if you don't abandon me, I'm willing to be your godfather. Don't think this is impossible point. With the shameless appearance of these gods, Sui really has no doubt that if he wants to take a few godsons now, these people will probably fight for the quota of these godsons. They look so solemn and respectful, and they don't seem to be pretending at all point. Sui almost really believed that these people made such a big scene to welcome him point. Of course, there are many people who want to recognize him as their godfather, and these gods from other worlds are still ranked point. He didn't think of taking a few cheap sons who are tens of thousands of years old point. After hearing the lies these gods made up in a hurry to beg for mercy, I couldn't help but laugh. Is that really what you said? But didn't I just hear that guy questioning Wee, calling her a foreign barbarian and poisoning the people? Isn't that the same as what you said? However, although these old guys didn't have much backbone, their brains worked quickly. After hearing this, someone hurriedly said, "Dear guest, these are all Baeming's own words. It has nothing to do with us. He has always had a weird temper and often does things that don't fit in with the group. Maybe it's because seeing that we attach so much importance to welcoming the distinguished guests, he did the opposite and spoke rudely to the distinguished guests." As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of other gods suddenly lit up, and they quickly agreed, yes, 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 King Guy is right. I testify that Baeming has a problem with his brain. This behavior is all his own decision, and it has nothing to do with us. I hope the distinguished guests will show mercy and give us a chance. We will capture Baeming alive and hand him over to the distinguished guests for disposal. Yes, Baeming is so bold that he bumped into the distinguished guests. Without the distinguished guests' help, we will deal with him and make the distinguished guests feel relieved. While they were talking, a group of gods with strong mobility had quietly surrounded Baeming, the one who had questioned Wei on behalf of the gods in the sky point. Baeming, who had originally wanted to play dead and see how these old rivals and old friends would end up, was naturally furious when he heard that these good brothers had sold him out without a second thought. He shouted loudly, "You are also gods respected by thousands of people in my magic world, but you are so spineless. Bah. I'm ashamed to be associated with you." Just now, Queen Mengchuan said that the gods of this world are frogs in the well and dogs with broken backs. I argued with her. Now it seems that Her Majesty is indeed a wise man who saw through you at a glance. The essence of a beast in human clothing. It was my old eyes that were blurred, and I was deceived by you, so I made such a big mistake. Please calm down. Baeming has deeply realized his mistakes. I hope you can give me a chance. I will go to apologize to Her Majesty the Queen. At the same time, I also hope you can give me a chance to solemnly apologize to you and everyone in the world behind you. You are the representatives of true advancement and civilization. In comparison, the magic world with these scums around me is a real barbarian land. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405. Sui originally thought that this god named Baeming had some backbone. Seeing that he was cut by justice, he planned to die calmly. He never expected that this guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, after scolding his colleagues with a face full of righteous indignation, also slid down at the speed of light. Moreover, the angle of his sliding kneeling was much smoother than that of other gods. There was no problem in logic, and his posture was more humble. After the other gods found that the matter could not be covered up, they immediately opened their eyes and said, "Nonsense. To put it bluntly, they gave Suyi a way to forgive them, and at the same time, said that as long as Suyi was willing to let them go this time, they would be willing to be slaves to Suyi. If it really couldn't be made up, then just cut it directly. As long as Suyi felt that they were still useful, they would let them go, even if normal people didn't believe it. In any case, they were also the top combat power in this world. And even if they were added together, they were not as big as Suyi's magic weapon. But it still has some effect. After all, no matter how strong Suyi is, he is still from another world. He can't stay in the magic world for a long time. So, if you want to control everything in the magic world in the future, you will always need one or more agents, or simply put, a group of puppets. Admittedly, Wei has a relationship with Suyi, no matter how you look at it. If Suyi wants to support an agent in the magic world, then Wei is definitely the most suitable. But the problem is that, if Wei is supported, Suyi may still have a long way to go to completely control the entire magic world. Even if these gods do not intervene, it is not so easy for Wei to unify the entire continent, and it can even be said to be very difficult. And if Suyi chooses these gods, then he can immediately do, as long as the magic world has these things, he can say anything, and these gods can send these things to Suyi's door. The development cost that can be saved is too much. This is the general plan that the gods thought of in a short moment, and how to use the chips they currently have in front of Suyi. It must be said that this idea is completely flawless, and their attitude is low enough. As long as Suyi lets them go, it can be said that he has both face and money. In comparison, Baeming's method is more logical and lowers his attitude. He directly admitted his mistakes, and at the same time, he just cut off all the other gods, and swallowed back his own words that refuted Wei. By the way, he can also follow Wei's words, and devalue these gods who cut him. While praising Suyi and land crossing, he calmly changed the address for Wei to Her Majesty the Queen. He didn't even expect to be Suyi's dog. As long as Suyi nodded, he would be Wei's dog in a minute. This scene was actually a bit beyond Suyi's expectations. To be honest, he didn't expect that these gods in the magic world were so spineless, and even had no face. But thinking about it carefully, it seems normal. The cultivation system of the magic world has been capped, and the cultivation path of the entire world has been cut off. This is not even a secret among the gods and demigods. Even the demigod Xinghan, who was promoted 100 years ago, knows these things very well. The gods who are truly courageous and ambitious are almost all trying to break the situation, and almost all die because of it. The remaining old monsters who have lived for who knows how many tens of thousands of years, which one is not a coward and a servile person. They are usually high and mighty in front of countless creatures in the magic world. In fact, they have long been accustomed to the existence of a more powerful god above their heads, and have long accepted the fact that they are just one of the ants raised by others. Now, Suyi, who also has the power to crush them, and can easily control their life and death, has appeared. For them, it was just one more god above their heads, and unlike the other one who never showed up, and didn't care about worldly affairs, this one would probably appear frequently in the future. They probably wouldn't take advantage of the real tiger not doing anything like before, and call themselves gods in the face of life and death. What's the point of abandoning these things? Faced with this situation, Suyi quickly figured out the key point. Of course, he figured it out, but he didn't mean to stop at all. Although taking these people for his own use would indeed speed up his layout and planning progress in the magic world, and the existence of a trading platform would indeed guarantee their loyalty. But the biggest problem was that in his plan for the magic world, these gods were one of the targets that had to be eradicated. Because essentially, the enduring bloodline theory of the entire magic world came from these almost immortal gods. If they were not eliminated by force, it would be difficult to eliminate the legacy of this bloodline theory in people's hearts. They were obstacles themselves. Besides, the character and moral integrity of these people are really disgusting. Suyi feels sick just looking at them. It's disgusting to leave them to be dogs for me. It's better to kill them all. Although this will indeed make the subsequent transformation of the entire world more troublesome, these are all solvable problems, and they can be dealt with, as long as they spend some time. He doesn't lack time now. He can take his time. Many gods were still expressing their loyalty, cutting off their teammates and competing to flatter Suyi. However, Suyi had already made up his mind and was naturally unmoved. He just watched their ugly performance indifferently. Until a certain moment, these gods realized that the development of things was different from what they imagined. This master from another world seemed not interested in accepting them, a group of powerful gods, as dogs. After the arguments gradually quieted down, Suyi chuckled and said, "Are you done?" Many gods looked at each other. They were a little thirsty for expressing their loyalty. Now they realized that the atmosphere was beyond their expectations and didn't know what to say. However, Suyi didn't want to listen to their nonsense and just said lightly, "Don't answer. That doesn't matter. Let's go first. In my one in banner, there are 5 Yuan evil ghosts, hundreds of giant and evil ghosts, thousands of foundation building evil ghosts, and countless ghosts of bodybuilding and key training. I estimate that your strength should be comparable to those foundation building evil ghosts. In this way, you don't have to worry about loneliness after you go in. You can also ask the ghost friends in the banner to judge the arguments just now. I think the bystanders will see clearly, and they will definitely give you justice." Chapter 406. No, 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 you can't do this. We are willing to surrender, spare my life. Spare my life. As long as you are willing to let me live, we can do anything. Even being a cow or a horse is not a problem, dear guest. I have been a god for thousands of years, and have never touched a man. I'm called the Ice and Snow Goddess by my believers. If you can let me live, I'm willing to obey you in the future. Even if you treat me like a dog, I will never complain. They are all old things who have lived for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. What they have done is too numerous to mention, and death is not a pity. But I'm only 6,000 years old, and I have never done anything wrong. I came here at this time, and I was bewitched by them, begging you to let me live. Humph. You are so stubborn. Do you really think we are vegetarians? The worst case scenario is that we will die together. Why are you still begging for mercy? Don't you see that they have no intention of letting us go? Why don't we work together and fight to the death? Maybe there is still a chance. In front of the life and death barrier, these gods are ugly, which is somewhat regrettable. In comparison, they were still more or less upright just now, just hinting Suyi in a covered way that they could be dogs for Suyi if they let them go. But seeing that Suyi didn't buy it at all, many people completely let go of the last bit of pride in their hearts and knelt down to beg for mercy. What's more, some female gods said even more explicit things. Yi just watched quietly and didn't bother to pay attention. In the sky, covered by the 10,000 souls banner, in the scrolls outlined by the dark purple lines, the evil spirits and evil ghosts with ferocious expressions seemed to come alive at this time. They struggled to crawl out of the sky in an extremely terrifying posture. In order to ensure that there is no mistake and not to deal with the evil spirits and evil ghosts that have overturned and lost the 10,000 souls banner with such a few weak gods. Suyi summoned all the evil spirits and evil ghosts in the giant Empyrea at this time. Once this level of ghosts appears, they are accompanied by monstrous ghost energy. Hundreds of them crawled out at the same time, and the entire space of the 10,000 souls banner was now shrouded in monstrous ghost energy. These evil spirits and evil ghosts were like mad dogs that had been hungry for who knows how many years. As soon as they appeared, they pounced on those gods, regardless of their height, weight, and thinness, and they would tear them apart and chew them directly. Almost as soon as they came into contact, several gods were torn to pieces in an instant, and the blood and flesh in the sky had not yet fallen to the ground, and they were greedily sucked by the evil spirits and evil ghosts, leaving not even a piece of bone. The strength they were proud of in front of these terrifying ghosts did not even have the slightest resistance. And those gods who had not been targeted by the ghosts saw this horrible scene, and their scalps tingled instantly. Wait a minute. Yuling and Keezings are our descendants. I see that they have a close relationship with the adults. Please give us a way out for their sake. We are willing to be slaves to repay the adults for not killing us. clear voice suddenly sounded in the wailing point. Suyi was stunned for a moment and looked in the direction of the voice and saw two women with green hair and almost identical looks, waving their staffs vigorously, trying to disperse the ghosts around them. But this action was obviously futile. They are not dead yet, it's just that the ghosts have not targeted them yet. After a slight hesitation, Suyi still waved to the two and said, "Come here." As soon as the voice fell, a clear path suddenly appeared in the space shrouded by layers of ghost energy. The two were overjoyed and hurriedly passed through it and came to Suyi. The real boss in the Wanlan banner, the 5 Yuanying stage ghosts, were protecting Suyi in the dark at this moment. With the strength of these two, even if they were face to face, they could not do anything to Suyi in front of the Yuanying stage ghosts, so he was not afraid of getting close to the other party. You Ling and Crossing Hen. Oh, that is, the Star Prayer, are your descendants. That's right, sir. We two sisters are the elf gods, and the elves were created by us. The two did not dare to delay and answered in unison. Suyi looked at the two carefully after hearing this. Although they don't have the iconic pointed ears of the elves, their looks are really amazing. They are far above the average level of the elves and are not inferior to Yuling at all. Seeing that Suyi didn't say anything, they thought that Suyi didn't believe it, so they hurriedly said, "Sir, the reason why we look a little different from the elves is that we are originally human beings. It's just that after becoming gods, in order to find a new direction of cultivation, we tried the route of the creator god who created races that was more popular hundreds of thousands of years ago. We used part of our own blood essence, combined with the blood essence of some immortal species such as the dragon race, and then merged it with the divine power after becoming gods to create the elves. Therefore, all the elves now, as well as the branch tribes with blood relations with the elves, are theoretically our descendants." After one person finished speaking, the other seemed to be afraid that Suyi had misunderstood something and hurriedly added, "Don't worry, sir. Although the two of us have become a large tribe in name, we have never been stained with men and are still virgins." Wait, stop. Suyi hurriedly stopped. Why is this getting more and more exciting? Just imagine, let Yuling, Crossing Hen and their two nominal blood ancestors together. Hiss, I'm so tired. This is too much fun. Thinking of this, Suyi said with a straight face, "What are you talking about? Am I that kind of person?" The two people's faces suddenly changed. They thought that Suyi was not interested in them, and they said in unison, "Sir, our words are absolutely true. If you don't believe it, you can try it now. We have survived for hundreds of thousands of years. Except for the early creation of the elves, most of the time we have been sleeping in the forests of the northern border and have never done anything bad. We didn't come here today to rob the time and space gate. You also know that the elves don't have such strength. We originally just wanted to get involved. After the dust settles, we will cooperate with those who finally get the time and space gate." What's the point of trying now? There are millions of viewers and countless cameras watching below. Is this the time to try now? You have to say this kind of thing in private. As for the reason they said they came here today, Suyi actually believed it. After all, there are so many gods and forces in the magic world, and only a few are really qualified to compete for this time and space gate. The rest basically have the same idea as them. No matter whether it can succeed or not, they will get involved first. If it succeeds, it will be the best, but if it fails, it doesn't matter, as long as we can determine who can become the real owner of the time and space gate at the first time. We can cooperate later. Chapter 407. It can be said that most gods come here with the mentality of trying to make it, regardless of success or failure. After all, not all gods can be like Chiang Yaoyu, who is the best among gods and has a far-sighted vision. He established an empire with his own powerful strength more than 100,000 years ago. Then, in the long years of more than 100,000 years, the family has grown and has cultivated a large number of gods and demigods with the endless support of the entire empire. Now the Chiang family has more than 10 gods and dozens of demigods. This is just one example. There are also the Magic Kingdom and the Yellow Sand Kingdom. As for the dragons of Dragon Island, they are even more heavyweight players. Ordinary gods compete with such family style gods. Forget it, they can't win at all. Suyi certainly knows that many gods are just here to join in the fun, but what about it? He wanted to kill these gods not for justice, but only to remove obstacles and reduce some unnecessary troubles that might be foreseen in the future. He didn't care what the real purpose of these gods was, or how many bowls of noodles they had eaten. Okay, retreat. For the sake of Yuling and Crossing Hen, I will let you go this time. However, the death penalty can be spared, but the living crime cannot be escaped. Go downstairs and wait for your punishment. Su Yi's expression was serious, and there was no sign of abnormality. The two sisters heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. After looking at each other, they didn't care about the reserve and arrogance of the gods. They directly prostrated themselves to Su Yi, with their upper bodies lying directly on the ground, but their lower bodies were raised again. The posture was abnormally weird and ambiguous at the same time. They said in unison, "Thank you for not killing us. My sister and I are willing to let you deal with us, Su Yi." In just a short time of talking, the gods and spirits of more than 200 and hundreds of demigods have been bitten and devoured by the thousands of vengeful ghosts in the Foundation building period, and not even a hair has disappeared. After confirming that there are no living creatures on the scene, the only two living ones have obediently fallen into the gate of time and space. And their life and death are also in his mind. Su Yi then put away the 10,000 souls banner. This magic weapon is very strange. It is a thing for novices to use to cross the level of enemies. It does not consume the user's spiritual power usually. Some special spiritual stones or similar treasures are used as batteries. At the same time, summary patterns engraved on the 10,000 souls banner can also absorb spiritual energy and convert it into energy for storage when not in use. And there is another way to charge, which is to kill creatures and absorb their blood and souls. The more powerful the creature, the more energy it can provide. Similar to the gods that Su Yi solved this time, he also solved the elite troops from various forces below. And it took such a short time. Not only did he not consume much energy from the 10,000 souls banner, but he also earned a lot. And the number of souls in the 10,000 souls banner increased a lot. The most added were naturally those ghosts at the level of the body refining and key training stage, which increased by millions at one time. It was equivalent to using it in one wave. Not only did the energy of the 10,000 souls banner not consume a bit, but it increased a little. And the comprehensive combat power of the 10,000 souls banner became stronger. It can be said that it was a big win. The biggest problem here has been basically solved, and the rest is up to you. If there is nothing else, I will go back to Blue Star first. In fact, the trading platform did not clearly stipulate that members cannot leave their own world, but there was a clause in the initial membership agreement that clearly stated it. The trading platform always monitors the location of members. If a member is not in his own world for more than a month, the trading platform may reselect a member to represent that world. In other words, Su Yi has to leave Blue Star for more than a month before his membership may be cancelled. And this is not inevitable, it is just possible. There are many worlds without members, such as Blue Star before. If the trading platform really keeps an eye on all worlds and ensures that new members are found, as soon as members disappear in each world, Blue Star would not have developed for so long to become what it is now. Of course, although membership will not necessarily be cancelled and replaced by others if it exceeds a month, if it is not necessary, people with normal minds should not take such risks. Being able to leave your own world for a month is enough to do most things. I have prepared a grand welcome ceremony for you. Now that you are here, don't you want to take a look? We immediately tried to keep him. Su Yi thought about it, and it seemed that he really didn't need these few hours, so he agreed. After the previous rounds of terrorist bombing, there was actually no normal land left around the time and space gate. Huge pits were everywhere. The millions of elite warriors of the magic world who had just entered the second wave were devoured by countless wronged ghosts and evil spirits. Their flesh and even their souls were completely devoured by these ghosts, but their armor and equipment were still scattered around. Blood-stained weapons were scattered all over the ground, but there was not a trace of debris. This scene was even more frightening than a battlefield full of blood and flesh. At a glance, the entire battlefield was a desolate and bleak scene. The welcome ceremony prepared by Mengchuan City had of course considered what would happen after the war. Therefore, the dilapidated and desolate battlefield gave them a lot of room To play point under the gaze of countless blue star tourists on the gate of time and space, a large group of mighty cavalry marched in neat steps from far to near, and behind the cavalry were the magicians riding special looking and extremely elegant monsters, and wearing spears. Wherever the army of Mengchuan City passed, the dead battlefield slowly revived, and the greenery representing vitality gradually emerged in the black and grey world point under the control of some Earth magic worlds. The huge Xiangkengs blown out by nuclear bombs were slowly filled back, and soon returned to flat ground, and various flowers, plants, and trees began to grow on them. However, compared with other areas, the various vegetation growing around these nuclear bomb craters is visibly different, either sparser than other places, or much more lush than other places. Although the latest clean nuclear weapons developed by Jiao were used this time, there is almost no radiation point, but it is almost impossible. After all, it is not completely impossible. There will still be some impact point, and it has only been a few hours since the nuclear attack, and there will still be some radiation left on the Earth point. If you want to completely eliminate the impact of radiation, you have to wait for a few days. Chapter 408. Low radiation or no radiation. Clean nuclear weapons are not particularly advanced and unattainable technologies when the red giant bear was still around. They used hydrogen bombs to open reservoirs, and people dared to swim in them after they were built. The radiation from hydrogen bombs at that time was actually quite limited, not to mention that the technology has been iterated so many times. Now Kaishi's latest clean nuclear weapons can completely achieve the level of health that ordinary people will not be affected by radiation in the center of the nuclear explosion after a few hours without considering the high temperature and other environment inside. But this is for humans, and many small animals and plants will definitely be affected. Therefore, the uneven coverage of green plants that appears now is actually normal, although it still affects the perception and style to some extent, because the scope involved is too large. The audience within the scope of the time and space gate does not have a god's perspective, so they will definitely not notice these small flaws. Damn, if I hadn't told you, who would have thought that just now, a shocking war had taken place on this land? It's so shocking. Along the way, the miserable and desolate battlefield around me turned into a green and refreshing clean. Is this magic? It's really a good thing. With this technology, we can harvest hundreds of crops a year. Will we still lack food in the future? Didn't you notice? The information released by Xianyu Group has long said that the population of this magic world is tens of billions. How can the productivity of the cold weapon era feed so many people? They probably rely on these magical magics. So, if we really connect with the magic world and learn their magic techniques, we won't have to worry about famine and food shortages on Blue Star anymore, right? It's hard to say. You don't think Blue Star is short of food now, do you? In fact, the food produced on Blue Star is enough to feed everyone in the world. Why are there still places where famine is raging? Think about it yourself. Wait, no one is paying attention to the point. We have been in this world for so long, and they have been fighting for a long time, and now it is a proper welcome ceremony. Don't you think it's outrageous? What's so outrageous about this? I've seen a lot of outrageous things today, and I'm already numb. Indeed, I was in a panic. When the army of 1,000,000 came at the beginning, I was afraid that they would rush into the gate of time and space and kill us all. But they haven't even touched the edge of the gate of time and space, and the boss's nuclear bombs washed the ground. I was in the center of the nuclear explosion. Who would believe it if I told others? When I thought everything was over after a wave of nuclear explosions, I didn't expect that there were still masters, and even gods came out. I thought I was screwed, and no one told me that there were gods in this other world. But before I could react, Director Su came down from heaven and swept away all those gods. Turtle, that scene, a living hell has come to the world. If Mr. Su had said that he had these two tricks, the high-ranking officials of the Bald Eagle on the Blue Star would probably be crazy and dare not mess with him. After watching the whole process, I feel that Xianyu Group and Su Yi are really terrible. They always seem to have wisdom and backup at any time. Once they decide to do something, they will never fail. It's outrageous. As The scene gradually eased, the previous cruel battlefield disappeared in an instant, and the tourists who followed Suyi to the magic world also relaxed. Some people began to evaluate the magical methods of these Mengchuan city magicians to turn the battlefield into green in minutes, and some people began to review everything they saw in the past few hours. The more they reviewed, the more frightened they were. Many people were shocked to find that this Xianyu group was like an iceberg on the sea. Whenever you see a part of it exposed above the water and sight its hugeness, it always hides a bigger one in the invisible place under the water. It is impossible to find out how many backups he has, how big they are, and how strong they are. The people here even include Old Man Lin. He asked himself if he was very familiar with Suyi. When he encountered the gods descending just now, Old Man Lin actually believed that Suyi had a backup to deal with, but he never expected that this backup was actually Suyi himself. He stood up and killed all those gods. No, not all of them, but also captured 2 goddesses captives. This made Old Man Lin unable to handle it. The main reason is that whether they look at Suyi's performance from Blue Star or some information from the magic world, Suyi should be a complete ordinary person, perhaps with some cultivation strength. After all, Suyi has too many resources. Even if he was an ordinary person before, he can practice now, but this strength will definitely not be particularly strong, and it is definitely not stronger than Yuling and Crossing Hen beside him. However, this scene today completely overturned the previous evaluation of Suyi by Jiao Zhao. His strength far exceeds everyone's imagination. Moreover, the 10,000 souls banner that Suyi had just taken out was still using the strange phenomena of heaven and earth that appeared. Although Old Man Lin did not dare to confirm it yet, based on his superficial understanding of the cultivation system of the magic world, this thing was very likely not something from the magic world at all. The horror and surprise of the gods in the magic world, after being enveloped by the 10,000 souls banner, could not be faked. From this, it is very likely that Suyi is also connected with another more advanced and powerful metaphysical side world. And what is known is that, in addition to this magic world that almost everyone on Blue Star knows, there is another equally powerful technological world that Suyi is currently trading with. In addition to the current stronger metaphysical side world, Suyi's strength and the resources he controls are simply astronomical figures that no one on the entire Blue Star can imagine. However, after being shocked, thinking of the relationship between Suyi and Jiao Zhao, Old Man Lin was relieved a little. The two have some incense, and Suyi has always been very kind to Jiao Zhao, not to mention getting any benefits from Suyi. As long as you don't commit suicide and offend Suyi, at least people won't embarrass Jiao Zhao. Even as long as the current relationship can be maintained, the little good things that Suyi leaks from his fingers are enough for a huge country like Jiao Zhao to make a lot of money. So the stronger Suyi is, the more resources he controls, and the more worlds he connects, theoretically, the better it is for Jiao Zhao. Chapter 409. Suyi. These are the ancestors of our Qiang family, the 2 gods Qiang and Yaoyu. Also, coming here with the formal welcome ceremony were the gods that Wu Wei had recruited. Out of courtesy, Wu Wei should introduce these ancestors to Suyi. Hearing this, before Suyi had time to say anything, Kai Yang hurriedly said, "Hey, what are you talking about? What about God Lord or not? Those are just the ignorant mortals in this world shouting nonsense. Who dares to call himself a god in front of this fellow Daoist Su? Welcome, fellow Daoist Su, to our magic world. I'm the founder of the Kai Yang Empire, and my name is also Kai Yang. The one beside me is my humble wife, named Yaoyu. Daoist fellow, you are here, and we should have a 3-day banquet in the capital of our Kai Yang Empire to welcome you. Unfortunately, the current conditions do not allow it, so we are really neglectful. Just kidding. Just now, those old guys who Kai Yang had known for who knows how many years were all killed by the young man in front of him. Call yourself a god in front of him. Although he, Kai Yang, has lived for a long time, he is not tired of living yet. I'm not in a hurry to go down and play the resurrection match with those old friends, so it is better to be humble. At this time, Kai Yang was extremely glad that he listened to Wei Wen's words and did not come with other gods to see him off point otherwise. Among the gods that were swallowed by the 10,000 souls banger just now, I'm afraid that they are also from the Chiang family. You're polite. The original location is here. There is no need to waste time and effort to go to other places. Su Yi chuckled. It's just that those gods were really rude, so I punished them a little. They made them a little uneasy. Don't blame me. Don't hit a smiling person. They are so polite and humble. In addition, they are Weewoo's ancestors. Su Yi is still willing to give them more face. How dare I? They came first, and Su Daoiao was just protecting himself. They deserve this fate, and you are definitely not to blame. Chiang said he didn't dare, and at the same time he was relieved. At least for now, this evil god should not attack him, and his life safety should be guaranteed. Now that the biggest problem has been solved, then in the face of such a major event that can affect the future of the magic world, what he should consider is how to make the Chiang family, or himself, gain more benefits from it. Wee is a descendant of the Chiang family, and this is his biggest bargaining chip at present. As for the fact that their family has double-digit gods and more demigods, it is nothing. Anyway, in front of Su Yi, it is just a roadside, and it is only a thought for others to kill his whole family. Having lived for hundreds of thousands of years, Chiang is not stupid. Of course, he will not think that he can sit back and relax with Wee Wee as a descendant. Not to mention that Wee Wee herself has a rebellious nature, and it is impossible for her to let him manipulate her. Even if Wee Wee really listens to him, if it touches Su Yi's core interests or affects what Su Yi wants to do, it will definitely be a dead end. So during the two people's greetings, Chiang calmly gradually led the topic to the magic world. He needs to first figure out what Su Yi's attitude towards this world is, and what he thinks of the current situation in this world. Then it is easier to make a judgment and decide the direction of the family's future progress and development. At first, Su Yi wanted to deal with a few questions because he was Wee Woo's ancestor, but he became impatient after being asked too many questions and said directly, the magic world belongs to Wee Woo, not me, and only she can decide the future of this world. Instead of asking me these questions, you might as well ask her directly. I believe she should have the answers you want. Hearing this, Chiang was stunned for a moment, and his eyes turned between Su Yi and Wee Woo, who was chatting with Yuling and others on the other side, as if he understood something. In fact, after he saw Su Yi's terrifying power that crushed everything, he subconsciously thought that Su Yi might have the final say in the magic world in the future. Wee Woo could only be Su Yi's agent or puppet in this world at most, and she would definitely not be able to make the decision. After all, he didn't know the existence of the trading platform and the special mechanism of the platform members, but now after hearing Su Yi's words, he, a 10,000-year-old fox, immediately reacted. The relationship between the two is probably more complicated than he imagined. Far from being as superficial as he had guessed before. Because Su Yi's words seemed to be distancing himself from the relationship, indicating that he had no intention of interfering with the magic world, but at the same time, he was also warning the surviving gods in the future. Wee Woo will have the final say in this world. This is what Su Yi meant. If these old guys are not tired of living, it is best not to think about how powerful they are and how extensive their experience is, and try to compete for Wee Woo's right to speak. This is a disguised support for Wee Woo. Seeing Chiang suddenly silent, Su Yi reminded him again lightly, "Sir, do you understand?" I understand." Chiang glanced at Wee Woo and hurriedly said, "In this world, everything will be subject to Wee Woo's orders. Whoever dares not to obey, Chiang, will be the first to disagree. That's the best." Su Yi smiled and picked up the wine glass to indicate, and then took a sip symbolically. Chiang also quickly picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp. Although Su Yi said it easily, Chiang was already sweating profusely at this moment. He had no doubt that if he had dared to say no just now, he would have to go to the Wanan banner to find those old friends to play the resurrection match. Have you finished chatting? What did you talk about? Wee Woo, who was chatting with Yuling and others on the other side, also noticed that they seemed to have finished chatting, so she came over. "Nothing, just chatting." Su Yi casually changed the subject. "The matter here is over. The problems of the alien races in the north will be handled by the two gods of the elves. The elite forces of the princes in the civil war in the south are almost wiped out. With your strength, you should be able to easily solve the problems within the Chiang Empire. When do you plan to go south to the imperial capital? In the next 2 days, after arranging the relevant issues around the Mengchuan kingdom and the gate of time and space, you can set off. There is a small teleportation array in Mengchuan city that goes directly to the imperial capital. It is not difficult to go there. As for the army going there, I'm afraid it is not the right time yet. We thought without thinking, he answered. When things over there are settled, I will announce the relocation of the capital and make Mengchuan city the new capital of the empire. So, Yi nodded without saying much and asked again, what are you going to do with your brothers? I heard that they all came to the north and were captured in their own camp, right? When she heard this question, Wei was stunned for a moment, but soon regained her composure, looking at the mountains in the distance, and after a long time, she whispered, when I wipe out Chiang and ascend the throne as emperor, I will use them as sacrifices. Chapter 410. Didn't you complain to me that you were tired 2 days ago? Why are you not tired now? So, Yi asked a little funny. Well, this matter has come to this point, so we have to bite the bullet no matter what, right? Wei said a little embarrassed, point as both members of the trading platform. The reason why Suyi and Wei choose completely different methods of controlling their world is that, if we want to dig deeper, the hundreds of thousands of years of civilization history in the magical world are too monotonous. Their gods have absolutely powerful power over ordinary people, which means that no matter whether the things and decisions made by these gods are correct or not, people in this world can only accept and adapt point, because it is impossible for humans to kill God point in comparison. Although Blue Star's civilization history is not as long as that of the magic world, fortunately, people will die when they are killed point. When a person really stands against the vast majority of other people, no matter how incalculable his wealth is or how huge his power is, he will only be crushed in the end point. Blue Star has a saying that the torrent of history is like a rolling wheel, and those who try to stand in front of the wheel are like a mantis trying to control the wheel, overestimating their own capabilities. This wheel, which is likened to the torrent of history, is the will of the vast majority of people within a certain period of time point. But in the wizarding world, this metaphor needs to be reversed point, because the will of the gods is the truly unchangeable rolling wheel, and ordinary people who want to change the will of the gods are actually the mantises blocking the wheel. By overestimating their own abilities, it doesn't matter if this mantis represents the vast majority of people in the magical world point. This creates two completely different worlds and very counterintuitive development results. Blue Star, which has a shorter history, has a more colorful history of civilization than the magical world point. Maybe someone will ask at this time. The history of mankind on Blue Star is a history of war, and the entire human race on Blue Star has gradually developed in uninterrupted wars. In comparison, there are only a few empires in the magical world, and their existence is measured in tens of thousands of years. Stable and scary point. The stability of this kind of large-scale political power normally represents long-term stable peace point. During this time, aren't the people in the magical world having a much better time than Blue Star? But is this really the case? Obviously not. Although the governments of those empires in the magical world are stable, the lives of the residents under their rule may not always remain stable point. For example, in the northern territory of the Blazing Sun Empire, if it weren't for the frequent invasions of alien races, the northern territory would not have built a super large fortress like Mengchuan City to resist alien races. There are almost constant wars here point. It is actually very similar to the ancient northern territory of Kyushu point. However, in ancient times, Kyushu was really likely to lose its country if foreigners moved south. Therefore, no matter how incompetent or ignorant the emperor of the capital was, if he encountered foreigners from the north moving south, he would have to find a way to fight them. If he couldn't defeat them, he would still have to find a way to quell the war. But because of the existence of those ancestors in the Chiang Empire, there was no concern that the country would be destroyed, and the emperor would become a prisoner faced with the alien problem that is raging in the north every day. Will it seriously solve it? What a fart. Before obtaining the trading platform, we had been besieged in Mengchuan City for several years. At that time, the old emperor was not dead yet, and there was no talk of sending any elites from the empire to provide support point after the death of the old emperor, the eldest prince, who claimed to have succeeded to the throne through a posthumous decree, and the other princes were also not interested in taking care of the troubles in the north. They only gave some verbal support and some innocuous benefits, of course, as the party being invaded, whether it was the old emperor at that time or the current princes, they naturally had to publicly express their attitude towards the alien race going south point without exception. They all expressed what they would do if the foreigners going south hurt we, and how they would persuade the foreigners to retreat quickly. The reason is either the deep love between father and daughter, or the deep love between brother and sister. After all, we, as the princess of the Chiang royal family, is full of talents and popularity, and is a symbol of the royal family outside. If a foreign tribe goes south and hurts her, it will be a slap in the face of the Chiang imperial family. This is absolutely not allowed. As for the northern territories and the casualties of ordinary people and soldiers, they don't care. The territory of the empire is demarcated by the gods. Even if the foreign tribes from the north go south and never leave, they will have to pay taxes to the Chiang Empire in the end. There is no such thing as saying that you go south and rob the territory of several provinces of the empire. The possibility of breaking the earth and sealing a king to establish his own business. It's just that the taxpayers in several northern provinces have changed from human races to a bunch of messy alien races. For the royal family of the Blazing Sun Empire, there is not much difference. In addition, whether it is the Blazing Sun Empire or several other empires on the mainland, their physiques are still stuck in the feudal period of the Zhou dynasty more than 2000 years ago. In the ancient Blue Star 9 provinces, for example, the emperor of the Chiang Empire, as the co-owner of the empire, has a mess of kingdoms, principalities, and fiefs under him. Some of these fiefdoms belonged to royal princes, while others belonged to some great nobles in the unified dynasties after the Zhou dynasty. Kyushu would also have such things as fiefdoms, but such fiefdoms were usually only in name. In the early days, some fiefdoms had their own governance teams, which only needed to accept the supervision of the central court. In the later stages of development, the rights that the recipients could exercise in the fiefdom were almost only to collect money. Internal governance, conscription, etc. are all handled by people from the central court. The fiefdoms of the Chiang Empire are different, as can be seen from Weiwu's previous authority in Mengchuan City. In her fiefdom, she is the biggest except for those special knights who can issue knighthoods, which need to be recognized by the central government of the empire. Almost everything else is determined by her. Even conscription, if only ordinary soldiers are recruited, can be unlimited. The nobles have absolute control over the fiefdoms, which is almost exactly the same as the feudal system of the Zhou dynasty in ancient Jiuzhou. The only difference is probably that the royal family of the Chiang Empire is really divine and has a 100% deterrent power over the vassal states. So it is impossible for the situation of the Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period of the Eastern Zhou dynasty, where the vassal states competed for hegemony and did not respect the Zhou emperor, as in the Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period of the Eastern Zhou dynasty. But no one said that if the Zhou emperor was respected, the vassal states would not fight each other. The wars within the Chiang Empire have almost never stopped for more than 100,000 years, and the reasons for the nobles to fight are more bizarre than one another. Even child's play. The wars involving hundreds of thousands of people are just a drop in the bucket. The central government of the empire is too lazy to care about most of these things. As long as it is not too ugly, it is fine. Even if it is really a region where no roosters crow for thousands of miles and the people are living in misery, at most they will call the offending parties to the imperial capital to reprimand them, and then mediate the conflict as a referee. These nobles don't have to pay any price at all. Will the people living in an empire with such a mechanism really live in peace for more than 100,000 years? Obviously it is nonsense. Chapter 411. In the big picture, The great empires and gods are like mountains, and ordinary people cannot shake them at all. Point in the small picture, the wars between the vassal states and nobles who are bored have really involved ordinary people and made them restless. They have no way to resist. Point in G as how people tell children the story of our kings, princes, generals and ministers of different species, said by Chen Sheng and Wu Guan during the uprising, to inspire young people. Point in the magic world, there are similar stories, but they are not inspirational stories, but jokes told by nobles and children. Point because the kings, princes, generals and ministers here are really kind. Point it can only be said that compared with the hellish start in the toilet of Blue Star Vocational High School, the start of ordinary people's families who are reincarnated into the magic world is also quite hellish, and it is almost an environment without any hope. Point finally, these various factors combined have led to the current pattern of the magic world. Point the social form of the whole world is fixed, and there will hardly be any major changes. It's just that this world pattern has just been smashed to pieces by the outsider Suyi with infinite power. Are you going to go ahead? Suyi let out a long breath and asked, are you going to use the teleportation array to go to the imperial capital first? Yes. Wei said as a matter of course, not understanding why he suddenly mentioned this, not to mention that the only gods left in the world are now on her side. Even if she had not received the support of the ancestors of the Chiang family before, no one would do anything to her if she returned to the imperial capital alone. Point so there is no problem for her to go back alone with a few confidants, even if she wants to do something. With the support of Chiang, all the forces in the imperial capital can basically be used by her, and no one should dare to object. How far is it from Mengchuan city to the imperial capital? More than 5,000 kilometers. Wei is still very clear about this. If you don't use the teleportation array, how long will it take to get there? Suyi asked again. Then, it's more complicated. Wei said simply, if you only go by land and are in a hurry, take a team of elite cavalry and ride on warcraft horses, you can get there in 1 or 2 days, but this is the speed of non-stop day and night. If you walk a little slower and occasionally stop along the way, then this time will have to be more than 3 to 5 days. This is the speed of the army. If it is a caravan, it will be even slower. It usually takes more than 10 days to complete this section, and this is because there is a canal running north and south for more than 2,000 kilometers in the middle. If you don't take the canal, it will probably take more than half a month for the caravan to reach Mengchuan city from the imperial capital. All of the above are based on the situation of having warcraft mounts. If not, it will take 1 or 2 months to walk. These are basic government affairs. Wei has been dealing with government affairs these days, but she is still clear about these basic things. The magic world is vast, otherwise it would be impossible to support so many people, so Suyi was not too surprised by the distance when he heard it. Point after listening, he just looked at Wei and said seriously, I hope you don't need the teleportation array and go back to the imperial capital in a normal way. Wei was stunned for a moment and said puzzledly, why? With the support of the ancestors, there is no danger in the imperial capital for me, and I don't need to bring the army back. It has nothing to do with danger or not. Suyi looked into her eyes and said in a deep voice, I hope you can walk slowly back to the imperial capital. Take a good look at this vast land that will soon belong to you, and take a good look at the people on it who are closely related to you. Wei is actually a princess who has stayed in the folk for a relatively long time in the advanced Chiang Empire royal family. After completing the palace tutorial, Wei, who was only 12 years old, started her journey to travel around the continent. Point the places she has traveled to are not even limited to the Chiang Empire. She has been to several major empires around it. Point it is not an exaggeration to say that she knows the suffering of the people best. Point, but Suyi thinks she is not clear enough. Point, because from the intermittent boasting of the glorious past to him by Wei, he could basically tell that the traveling around the continent this woman talked about was actually a story of a super rich second generation tycoon traveling around. Point during the travel, she lived in the best place and ate the best food. Point, even when she was traveling in the background, She suddenly wanted to eat the special ingredients produced in the southern border of the empire thousands of miles away, and someone would send them to her. Even if she encountered a place where there was no village or store, the guards and maids who accompanied her would build a large tent with full comfort for her in the wild for her. The noble princess. To rest. Experiencing and witnessing the suffering of the people was a side project for the princess to travel. When she met some people with extremely miserable family backgrounds, Weewa's approach was usually to solve those small problems for them, give them a large sum of money, and then immerse herself in the gratitude of others. She would never think about why they were so miserable. This can't be blamed on her. After all, she was still young at that time. It would be too difficult for her to worry about the country and the people if she was raised in a honeypot. But if you say that she knows what the sufferings of the world are, that's nonsense. Weewee has been traveling abroad for many years. She probably has no idea about the real sufferings of the world, and most of her has no idea about the lives of the lower class people in the empire. This can be seen from the time when she asked Suyi for supplies. Because of the natural disaster, the harvests in several provinces in the north were not good, so Weewee went to Suyi to buy food. After getting enough food, she thought that the people of Mengchuan Kingdom should be able to survive this cold winter. She completely forgot that in winter, people are not only hungry, but also cold. You can't survive the cold winter with food, but no means to keep warm. It was Suyi who thought of this, and took the initiative to send her a lot of warm clothes, and even bought a large clothing factory in Blue Star for this purpose. Compared with most of the bad nobles in the magic world, Weewee is certainly not bad. She can even be said to be very kind to ordinary people. But there is still the same problem. She is too out of touch with the ground and has no idea what the specific situation is like in the folk. Suyi asked her not to use the teleportation array, but to return to the imperial capital by walking slowly normally, just to let her take a good look with her own eyes. This method of sharpening the gun before the battle may not be very effective, but it is better than not knowing the real folk at all. Besides, she has handled government affairs now, and her position is different from when she was a princess. Suyi believes that after she finishes reading, her mentality should change a little. I hope that next time I ask you this question, you can give me an answer I want, instead of just forcing it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412. There is no doubt that the first opening of the space-time gate was extremely successful. This success is not only reflected in the fact that this thing sent millions of people there at one time, but also in the fact that after the space-time gate connecting the two worlds was established, millions of people came to the scene in person at the first time, and hundreds of millions of people saw the style of the other world through the live broadcast on the internet. The neatly arranged magic cavalry, those mysterious and strange magicians, and the gods in the sky. These are things that have never been seen on Blue Star. All of them highlight the mystery and power of this other world. Then, all of this was directly smashed to pieces by Suyi, who they had always regarded as the same kind, with a power so powerful that people could not understand. When those arrogant gods lowered their noble heads and knelt down to beg for mercy in front of Suyi, all the people on Blue Star realized where the confidence of this person who had always been very arrogant on Blue Star and dared to counter-sanction against the sanctions of the Bald Eagle Empire before he became famous was after seeing the complicated situation in the other world. I have preset many possible outcomes. The best one is that this time space gate is really as awesome as Mr. Su said. As long as you are within this range, you will not be harmed. The worst case is that everyone who went there this time died in another world, and then the two worlds went to war. Or our allies in the other world are equally powerful and can easily repel these enemies. What I never expected was that it was Mr. Su who took action in the end. Who knows? This is fucking too cool. Besides, Mr. Su's armor is really cool to the extreme. I would like to call it the pinnacle of violent aesthetics. Look at the official website of Shianayu Group. There is already an introduction to this armor. I saw it. The Destiny level power armor. My goodness, is this thing actually a power armor? I thought it was a magic weapon made by some kind of metaphysical technology. You told me it was a technological product. Look carefully, this thing is very complicated. In short, it is definitely not a simple technological product, and it has something to do with metaphysics. This effect is really awesome, right? After putting it on, the theoretical maximum strength of both arms exceeds 300,000 horsepower. If I remember correctly, the latest aircraft carrier in Kyushu is only 260,000 horsepower, right? The Mizzy class of the Bald Eagle is also about 260,000 horsepower. I can't stop an aircraft carrier with my bare hands. There is another analogy below. After putting it on, it is equivalent to a 7th level warrior in the magic world. What does this 7th level warrior mean? It sounds like it is very awesome. You can go and read another public document about the magic world of Shianayu Group. The 7th level warrior is the level of passers-by who were blown up by that wave of nuclear bombs. Warriors and magicians have atmospheres from 1 to 9 levels, and above are demigods, and then gods. Wait, so how did Suyui kill gods wearing this thing? Is it possible that whether he can kill gods has nothing to do with this power armor? Then why wear it? I watched the live broadcast throughout the whole process. People deliberately changed into power armor when they took action. Maybe it's simply because this power armor is cool enough. In my opinion, this is indeed something that Mr. Su can do, mainly because this thing is really cool. I've lived for more than 20 years, and I've earned hundreds of clothes in vain. How can I have one like his? This one of his. When can I get a set of Sentinel 1 light power armor? I have to wear it on the street every day. Brother, let's think about something realistic. Oh, I already have Sentinel 1, but Sentinel 2 is currently only sold to the Jiazhou military by Shianayu Group. It's not easy to get. No, do you really have it? Among a series of shocks, the most shocking one is of course the scene where Suyui kills the god. People on Blue Star may not understand the value of gods, but it doesn't matter. Shianshu knows who his boss is, so he will naturally popularize what kind of existence the gods in the magic world are to those who don't understand. At the same time, combined with the tradition of Shianayu Group, nothing is kept secret. Directly upload all the introductions and popular science about all the new things that appeared in the public eye for the first time to the official website of Shianayu Group. This includes the Destiny level power armor, as well as some popular science about the gate of time and space and the magic world. In particular, in the popular science about the magic world, it also specifically describes how long these gods have been alive and what changes have been made to the direction of this world, so that the people of Blue Star can understand how harmful the existence of those gods is to the world. One reason for doing this is of course to praise their own boss. After all, Suyui seemed too casual when he killed the gods. Those who don't know would think that he just kicked a few wild dogs to death on the roadside. How can you highlight the power of your own boss without saying how awesome the opponent is? And the other reason is also a warning. In fact, Shianshu has been monitoring the entire Blue Star and collecting various information on the internet, which is equivalent to doing public opinion surveys all the time. According to the results of its survey, since Jiazhou and Shianayu Group first disclosed the existence of the other world in the metaphysical side of the power, there have been more topics about some metaphysics on Blue Star. It is not just Kyushu, which is deeply influenced by various immortal cultivation novels, that discusses this thing, but also places outside Kyushu. This mysterious power is a hot topic for discussion everywhere. In these discussions, it is inevitable that many people will have UI, such as what will happen if they gain powerful power through cultivation. There are some very dangerous views among them. Compared with these people, the gods in the magic world are all amiable. This also further proves how dangerous it is when an individual masters a power that is too powerful to control. After all, in many cases, the difference between human individuals is much greater than the difference between humans and dogs, but for various reasons. At this point, the entry of the power of the metaphysical side into Blue Star has become a foregone conclusion. Neither Suyi nor Xianyu group has any need to stop it, nor can it be stopped. With the establishment of the time and space gate, various cultivation methods from the magic world will sooner or later be popularized in Blue Star. At this time, it will have a very good positive effect to publicize Suyi's record in the magic world. Even if one day in the future, someone on Blue Star really cultivates to that level, if he wants to not eat beef, he must carefully weigh who has the biggest fist in this world and whether he is strong enough to fight. Chapter 413. Compared to Xianxu's daily busyness, Suyi fell into a long period of leisure after returning from the magic world. And it was a more leisurely state than before. Before, he had to run around the warehouses of the world every few days to collect various materials to trade with Wei, but now he doesn't even need to do this. Xianxu has already formulated a strict process for material exchanges based on the characteristics of the time-space gate. Suyi only needs to give it some authorization of the time-space gate, and then let the person designated by Wei to grant the permission in the magic world cooperate, and it can do these things beautifully. As for why the person designated by Wei should listen to Suyi, in fact, in theory, people can choose not to listen, but he is happy to listen, and Suyi has no choice. It is said that the person who did this was a demigod from the Chiang family. He was really conscientious when doing things, and did not dare to slack off at all. For fear of being targeted by the god of death. Cough cough. In short, Suyi's main focus now is to be free of worries every day. He either practices martial arts with Yuling and the others, or plays games while lying down, or casts a few fishing rods at the beach. Of course, there are some differences from being a lazy fish before. That is, no matter where he goes now, there are several maids around him. Yes, maids to be specific. There are 4 in addition to the 2 beautiful but human elf gods. There is also the current king of the elf kingdom and the princess Anki, who was captured by Wei a long time ago. After the 2 elf gods were captured by Suyi, it was naturally impossible to let them return to the magic world. If they wanted to survive, they could only come to Blue Star, and the premise of coming to Blue Star was, of course, to sign an agreement with Suyi on the trading platform. Because they were captured prisoners of war, the agreement they signed could not be as loose as you crossing and crossing hens. The terms in it were extremely strict. It can be said that life and death depended on Suyi's thoughts. They are worthy of being gods who have lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Their main feature is that they can bend and stretch. They signed this clause without thinking. After coming to Blue Star, they strictly performed their duties as servants without even Suyi telling them. They rushed to serve tea and water, and all the robot jobs were taken by them. Suyi wanted to say that it was unnecessary, but as soon as he told them not to do this, the 2 of them burst into tears and looked like they were about to cry. After several times like this, he was too lazy to say more and just let them do it. Not to mention, it feels really good to be taken care of by such a beautiful woman. As for why the 2 of them did this, it was because they had no sense of security, and they were very afraid of Suyi. After seeing those gods being killed by Suyi with their own eyes, now they are with Suyi, thinking only about how to show their role, so that Suyi will not kill them. If Suyi doesn't let them do these things, they will feel uncomfortable instead. And they are subconsciously afraid that Suyi will think they are useless and kill them. As diligent as these 2 elf gods, there is also the captured current elf queen and leader of the Northern Foreign Coalition. In fact, compared to the elf gods, this queen is more afraid. Because it was she who ordered the killing of Yuling's family, and Yuling is now the most favored woman around Suyi, and it is not an exaggeration to say that she is the only woman with a name. If Yuling blows a little pillow talk, the elf queen has no doubt that Suyi will kill her immediately. To vent Yuling's anger, she was not captured directly by Suyi on the battlefield, but after Suyi cleared out the gods who were present, Wei asked the ancestors of her own gods and demigods to clean up the remaining forces of other forces around, and then handed her over to Suyi. Wei certainly knew that this elf queen had a big grudge against Yuling, and also knew what the relationship between Yuling and Suyi was now. She was sent to Yuling to do her a favor and let her take revenge. In other words, Yuling had already let go of the magic world, and now just wanted to stay by Suyi's side and do what she should do, so she didn't mean to kill her to vent her anger, and gave her a chance to work as a maid with the old ancestor. Otherwise, the queen, who had the final say in the magic world of the north, would probably have grass several meters high on her grave. These three were so obedient that they couldn't be more obedient. If Suyi, Yuling and Crossing Hen were not too busy practicing, they would have wanted to offer themselves to her. The one who was completely different from the three of them was Anki. The elf princess who first led the North Alliance to attack Mengchuan City. This guy was almost killed by Weiwu with several cloud bombs at that time, and he barely survived thanks to a lot of life-saving magic tools on his body. Since then, he has been locked up in the prison of Mengchuan City by Weiwu. Weiwu had wanted to send her to Blue Star to give her to Suyi a long time ago, but because sending people requires points, and this guy is really a stubborn person who refuses to sign a contract, so this matter was delayed. This time, the time and space gate has been opened, and it is no longer necessary to go through the trading platform to bring people back to Blue Star. It doesn't matter whether she signs a contract or not. Naturally, she was sent here. Moreover, she is only the strength of a 7th level warrior, and she is not as good as Weiwu. Even if Suyi does not use the 10,000 souls banner, he has the strength of the late stage of body forging. It is a pure beating to deal with a 7th level warrior. Even if there is no contract, there is no need to worry. Compared with the two elf gods and the elf queen, Anki is much tougher. After being sent here, the main attitude is to refuse to communicate and refuse to cooperate and kill me if you have the ability. Of course, Suyi could see that this woman didn't really want to die, but just couldn't get over the hurdle of face. She completely refused to listen to any of Suyi's orders, but completely obeyed the orders of the two elf gods and the elf queen. This led to a very strange phenomenon. For example, when Suyi wanted her to do something, she stood there without moving. Then one of the other three quickly repeated Suyi's words, and she immediately did it with a reluctant look on her face. Judging from her obedience to the elf god and the elf queen, Suyi felt that if he ordered these three to order Anki to sleep with him, Anki would also lie down in the bedroom with a reluctant look on her face. Of course, although it hasn't reached that step yet, it's really interesting to control people to do things they don't want to do with a reluctant look through means that people can't refuse. In short, he has had a lot of fun recently. There are many things that the other three people are rushing to do, but Suyi just wants Anki to do it. Every time he sees her reluctant look, his evil taste will be greatly satisfied. It can be regarded as adding some fun to this boring life. Under this wonderful combination, Suyi got used to the feeling of being served by several beauties around him after a few days. Chapter 414. So, you two are not even relatives. Yi was lying comfortably on the beach, with the elf goddess behind him massaging him. Of course, these two also have names. One is called Meng and the other is called Dying. They have names, and although these names are only one word and look rather monotonous, they were considered very serious names in the era when they were born. Even in today's magic world, such single word names are considered synonymous with gods to a certain extent, because such names were basically given when the magic world was still in the barbaric era hundreds of thousands of years ago, and the writing system was not yet perfect. It was completely different from Xinghan, who only had the nickname of the Star Prayer before, and did not even have a serious name. Suyi naturally did not have to change their names, but in order to show their loyalty, they gave themselves names that sounded quite normal on Blue Star. Sumeng and Suang respectively. According to the tradition of the women and concubines in the big families in the magic world taking the husband's surname. The relatives that Suyi asked about at this time, of course, did not refer to the two sisters. In fact, the two are twins. They look and even have the same figure. There is no difference in appearance. Even a fool can tell that they are sisters. He asked about the relationship between Sumeng and Suang, Anki, the elf queen, and Ning, Yuling and Crossing Hen. In fact, he has been thinking about this question for a long time. After all, according to the way that the noble bloodline in the magic world is passed down, in theory, all elves should be the direct descendants of Sumeng and Suang. Especially the Moon Elf tribe, where Yuling is, and the Dark Elf tribe, where Anki and her friends are. Suyi has heard that the reason why they are the royal family of the elves is because they are the direct bloodline of the gods, so the relationship between them should be closer after all. Although the first elf was not born by them, it was actually created by them, based on their own bloodline point. When you calculate it this way, it's a bit too exciting. Cough cough point. However, after he asked this question directly, the answer he got from Sumengan Suing was a bit unexpected. In fact, we are the ancestors of all elves. But in the hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and reproduction, this blood relationship has become quite thin. It is true that the Moon Elf tribe and the Dark Elf tribe are direct descendants of the gods, but this god does not refer to the two of us, but the gods that were born spontaneously after the elves we created grew and became stronger. In fact, we created many races, most of which have been annihilated in the long river of time, and only a few have survived to the present, among which the elves are the largest. We created the elves and protected them through the initial stage. After the elves had the ability to protect themselves in the magic world, we rarely intervened in the affairs of the elves. After the elves gave birth to gods themselves, our symbolic significance in the elves was greater than our actual significance, and we couldn't intervene, even if we wanted to. After all, although we created the elves, we ourselves, but they are not elves. Those rising stars in the elves naturally cannot let us two outsiders point fingers at the internal affairs of the race. In fact, up to now, except for a few noble tribes such as Moon Elves and Dark Elves, many ordinary elves and the entire elf race don't even know that we exist. Just like there is a saying among humans in the magic world that everyone now is the descendant of a few human ancestors in the ancient times millions of years ago, the relationship between us and the elves is probably the common ancestor of all those people, and then it's gone. After the elves were created by us, they naturally integrated a lot of foreign blood. Now, their blood relationship with us is actually quite thin, and even the elves are quite different from what we originally created. When talking about this matter, the two sisters were somewhat helpless, but also vaguely proud. Point obviously, for gods like them, it is a very powerful thing that the race they created has grown, and even once became strong enough to compete with humans and naturally intelligent life such as dragons. But after the race they created grew and grew, they lost control of it, and there was really nothing they could do, except being helpless after all. They created a bunch of races at that time, in order to verify the feasibility of some other cultivation routes. The emergence of these races was something beyond their plan. Point naturally, they couldn't care too much about it. Point they also took care of the elves they created a little bit, allowing them to survive the difficult initial stage on the cruel road. After they developed and had the ability to stand in the magic world, they just let it go. Point many other gods of the same period created and abandoned them, and didn't care about the life and death of the creatures they created. Point you didn't care about them much. After gods appeared in the human family group, they naturally wouldn't listen to you anymore. Point it's like an old monster suddenly appeared in the magic world, whose strength is equivalent to those gods, but he claims that all humans in the world were created by him, and everyone has to listen to his orders. Will those human gods listen? You're dreaming. Of course not. So, you can even say that there is no blood relationship between you. If this is considered a blood relationship, then the master can even think that everyone in the world is related by blood. Sumeng smiled. Point when they were in the Wanlan banner, they couldn't wait to get involved with Yuling and Crossing Hen to save their lives, but now they want to get rid of the relationship as soon as possible, so as not to let Suyi misunderstand that there is really a blood relationship between them, so as not to delay the progress of some things. Of course, as they get to know each other better, they are so attentive in front of Suyi. Not just to save their lives, it's for another more complete cultivation system. Point after all, they follow Suyi every day, and Suyi is too lazy to ask them to avoid anything. Point more or less, you can see Suyi practicing occasionally, and Yuling and Crossing Hen practicing every day. Point that is a completely different way of practicing from the magic world, and the effect is surprisingly good. Point as the common ancestor of the elves in name, Sumeng and Suing know a little about Crossing Hen, who has both elf and human blood. Point not to mention that when Xinghan took another dead end, It caused quite a stir in the circle of gods and demigods, and they couldn't help but recognize him. But now looking at Xinghan, even if Xinghan didn't make a move, just glanced at them lightly, the two veteran gods could already feel a huge threat. They could clearly feel that Xinghan was more than one level stronger than when he was in the magic world, and it could even be said that he had reached the level of completely crushing them. This was obviously the power from another cultivation system. Chapter 415. What about the gods, born among the elves? Where are they now, Su? Yi asked curiously. Not to mention anything else, this elf's appearance is truly top notch, and his figure is incomparably good. If possible, it would be nice to collect a few more. Even if you don't do anything, just having it at home is eye-catching. But as soon as he asked this question, he was greeted by strange looks from the two sisters. Su Yi suddenly realized that the other elven gods were probably already playing a resurrection match in the 10,000 soul banner. If the master wants a group of elven maids, he doesn't actually have to pursue demigods or gods. Appearance has something to do with strength, but it doesn't mean that lux with average strength are necessarily inferior to strong ones. The elves are famous in the magical world for their beauty. If you are willing to look for them, you can still find a large number of very good elven women. The two of us can choose for you. Considering the current situation of the elves, there should be no elves who are willing to serve you. Few. Just kidding. When there were still gods in the elves, the two ancestors couldn't talk to each other. Now that all the gods of the elves have been wiped out by Su Yi, if they return to the magical world, they will naturally be in agreement with each other in the elves. That's not necessary. Su Yi waved his hand. He doesn't have any psychological burden on those elves, nobles or gods. After all, these people are eel meat eaters and have already enjoyed enough. The hardships they endure now can be regarded as repaying their previous debts. If we were ordinary elves, there would be no need to complain. Apart from the fact that they live forever, they are essentially no different from ordinary people. They are not qualified to decide their own destiny. Everything is controlled by the gods and gods in the magical world, under the control of the nobles below. Even if they did something bad, such as going south to plunder and attack Mengchuan City, it may not be their original intention. They are just poor people. While the two were talking, a volleyball flew over from far away. When it was about to hit Su Yi, it hung strangely in the air, making it difficult to move forward. Not a single grain of gravel picked up by the volleyball fell on Su Yi. Brother, Su Yi, let's play together. In the distance, Yang Yi, who was wearing cool clothes, waved. You guys go play. Su Yi casually slapped the ball back, quietly admiring the energetic figures on the beach. This is his private beach on Penglay Island, and of course others are not allowed in. Playing on the beach right now are Yang Yi and some classmates she brought to the island to play. Of course, most of them are female classmates. Yuling and Xinghan were both wearing bikinis here at the moment. If a man other than him really showed up here at this moment, he would probably have to be blind for the rest of his life. In this regard, Yang Yi asked Su Yi several times anxiously before bringing people here. There is nothing embarrassing about such a trivial matter, and he will naturally not be disappointed. By the way, he also went downstairs to bask in the sun and enjoy the sea breeze. Why don't you go and have fun? I guess those little girls are very willing to be taken advantage of by you. Ling took two opened coconuts and sat on the stool next to Su Yi, handing one to him. Aren't you here? Do you still need to flatter others, Su? Yi pulled her into his arms. There are so many people. Yuling suddenly blushed and protested in a low voice. But he said no. But in fact he didn't even make the slightest move to resist. You're an old married couple. Are you still afraid of people looking at you, Su? Yi didn't care, but he just held her in his arms and didn't do anything too extreme. Even though Yuling was being rectified on the spot here, she probably wouldn't object. At most, she would just throw a blind eye on the people around her, but it wasn't like Su Yi had never eaten meat in his life, so he really wasn't so hungry. After a moment of tenderness, he said warmly, are you really not going to deal with the Ning and Anki? How to deal with them is just a matter of your words. I won't have any objections. You should know. No need. Yuling rested her head on Su Yi's shoulder and chuckled. Let the past go by. Besides, this is another world. If you dwell on those past things, it will destroy your current state of mind and only increase your sadness. What's more, in the process of the Dark Elf tribe overthrowing the rule of the Moon Elf tribe, both Ning and Enki were important participants. Being able to defeat the weak and the strong in an environment like the magical world, their abilities, there is no doubt about it. Rather than deal with it casually, it is better to keep them by your side to help you. Compared to me as a nominal CEO, after they understand the situation of Blue Star and the operating mechanism of Xianyu Group, giving them this position should be much better than me. This is true. Point. Yuling's personality is too Buddhist. Most of the time, she doesn't fight or fight. She mainly focuses on being a happy-go-lucky person. Point. In short, the career ambition is not strong enough. Point. Rather than pursuing a career, she was more interested in reading quietly for a while, or learning a few dishes to cook for Suyi. Point. And Ning and Enki are the perfect opposites, full of ambition. Point. Otherwise, he would not have the courage to overthrow the Moon Elf royal family in one fell swoop and make his own tribe the royal family of the elves. Being able to do this kind of thing also shows that he has amazing abilities and sufficient ability to do things. Yuling is not a jealous person and can naturally admit the strengths of others and her own shortcomings openly. As long as Xianxu is in charge of the company, you don't have to do anything, just take a job. Suyi didn't care. As for them, it doesn't matter whether they are capable or not. If there are more companies, they will not be more, and if there are fewer, they will be less. But since you said you should keep it, then keep it. Anyway, you are basically in charge of everything at home. Just take care of it. I won't ask any more questions. After being together for so long, the two of them now have a vague division of labor. Suyi seldom took care of things at home and left them all to Yuling. Point. Including Xinghan, a big boss who can tear apart gods with his hands. He basically listens to Yuling at home. Point. Not to mention the other two elves and gods who have become maids. After all, this matter has nothing to do with strength, only Suyi's attitude. Point. As long as Suyi agrees, Yuling will still be the mistress of this family, even if she has no strength at all. Point. She has the final say on everything in the back house. Point. While the two were talking, Xianxu, who was puzzled by the charm, suddenly appeared next to Suyi through a holographic projection. Sir, the latest news from Kaishu is that Blue Star's first nuclear fusion experimental reactor has just completed all the testing work and is ready for the first ignition at any time. I'm asking if you want to take this last step. Chapter 416. Your Majesty, if we only take the land route, it will probably take more than half a month for us to return to the Imperial capital at the earliest, not to mention sleeping in the open air all the way. We have to travel non-stop. There is a teleportation array directly to the Imperial capital in Mengchuan City. Why not teleport back directly? I heard that the situation in the Imperial capital is chaotic now. Wouldn't it be possible to stabilize the situation by going back earlier? Gao Zanmeo, who has Warcraft blood, asked Lillian, who had just returned from Blue Star, to Wui, who was sitting on the chariot frame. My ancestors will handle matters in the Imperial capital. There is no need for me to rush back to stabilize the situation. Wui supported her chin with one hand, looking at the distant land under the bleak autumn wind, and said calmly, we don't have to rush. We can walk slowly and see slowly. This is the purpose. It doesn't matter whether we arrive in the Imperial capital in half a month or in a month. It's the people from the Imperial capital who are waiting for me. It's not me who's in a hurry to go back to see them. So Yi defeated most of the gods in the entire magical world in one battle, and also expressed his absolute support for Wei in front of Chiang. Point. Under the current situation, even if Wei walks for a year or even 10 years before arriving at the Imperial capital, the people in the Imperial capital will have to wait obediently, and the throne, which symbolizes the highest power of the empire, will also have to wait. With Point. And it is absolutely impossible for anyone to complain. Walk slowly and look slowly. So what exactly are you looking for? There's nothing interesting to see here, right? Lillian still didn't understand why she left the convenient teleportation array alone and slowly walked back to the Imperial capital onto legs. You don't understand, even after I tell you. Just think of it as an outing. Wei said with a smile. Hey, I know even if you don't tell me, My brother-in-law must have asked you to do this. Lillian said as if I had seen through everything a long time ago. We looked slightly embarrassed, picked up a pastry on the carriage frame, and threw it over, laughing and cursing. You little girl, you went to Blue Star and you dared to make fun of me. You need a beating. You can't hit it. Lillian accepted it easily, and after taking a bite, she said in disgust, it doesn't taste good. After saying that, he threw it aside casually. At this time, the carriage just happened to pass through a field, and across the field was a small village. Such a large formation passed by the entrance of the village, which had already attracted many villagers to stop and watch from a distance. Seeing Lillian casually throwing the food on the roadside, a thin little girl swallowed her saliva. After a moment of hesitation, she trotted to the roadside amidst the exclamations of her family behind her, and picked up the piece of pastry. After smelling it, he showed a happy expression, raised the pastry, and turned around with a joyful expression, as if he wanted to tell his parents that he had picked up something good. However, when he turned around, he saw the horrified expressions of his parents and villagers. Dang, the sound of gold and iron clashing sounded. The little girl was startled and turned around in horror. Only then did she realize that a giant sword larger than her body was less than half a meter away from the back of her head. Fortunately, another beautiful long sword that she didn't know where came from happened to be inserted behind her, and the guard on the sword just blocked the giant sword. Otherwise she might have been split in half. Why do you do it? An indifferent voice came from the side. Seeing his sword hit the queen's sword, the dumb knight immediately came to his senses, quickly dismounted and knelt down on one knee. I report to Her Majesty the Queen that this untouchable has committed an unpardonable crime by blaspheming Princess Lillian. Lillian is the daughter of the prince. In terms of title, she can be considered a princess at most, and she can be crowned a duchess or something like that. But because she is special, she has been following Wee Wee and has never been crowned. Plus, she is still a member of the royal family. So people in Mengchuan City usually call her princess anyway. Wee Wee is the biggest here, so she has no objection. Bloody Lillian. Wee Wee glanced at the little girl who was completely frightened and didn't dare to move. His eyes fell on the pastry she was holding in her hand and the teeth marks left by Lillian on it, and she immediately understood the reason. In the magical world, it is not uncommon for commoners to pick up the leftovers of nobles, because even the leftovers left by nobles are a rare delicacy for many commoners, but this kind of situation generally cannot be done under the noses of nobles. Nobles who are more generous or don't care about such trivial matters may think it's nothing, but some nobles would consider this an offensive behavior. Over time, it gradually developed into a trend. The nobles believed that they were inherently superior to the common people, and it would be a kind of blasphemy for the common people to have any contact with them. This kind of contact is not limited to physical bodies, but also includes things like clothing, hair, and even saliva and feces. In this knight's opinion, this pastry was eaten by Lillian. If a commoner dared to pick it up and eat it, it was obviously an insult to the beautiful and noble Princess Lillian. Wee Wee opened her mouth and saw the loyalty and determination in the knight's eyes. For some reason, a sense of powerlessness came to her heart. In the end, I could only wave my hands a little feebly. Get up. From now on, without orders, you are not allowed to draw your sword and hurt others, let alone use force against ordinary people at will, as you command. The knight immediately performed a formal knight's salute, then stood up and stood beside Wee Wee as a bodyguard as seriously as a sculpture. These accompanying people are all Wee Wee's close subordinates. No one present will doubt that. Even if a giant dragon wants to harm Wee Wee now, this knight will stand in front of Wee Wee and face the dragon's breath without taking a step back. On the contrary, this is what makes Wee Wee feel most troublesome and powerless. She looked at the little girl, took a breath, and waved to her, trying to make her voice softer. Come here. The little girl looked at her gorgeous long dress, and the fear in her eyes was hard to hide. She could only look at her parents behind her for help. Seeing this, the little girl's parents could no longer hold back and rushed out of the crowd regardless of the other villagers' obstruction. Before reaching Wee Wee, the knight put his hand on the hilt of the sword, but thinking of Wee Wee's words, he still suppressed the urge to draw the sword and chop people, and instead stepped in front of the couple like an insurmountable mountain. Back off. Wee said lightly. The knight immediately stepped aside. His expression could not be seen through the heavy mask, but his hand was on the hilt of the sword again, and his sharp eyes stared at the couple. If they had any disrespectful behavior in front of Wee, he would immediately draw his sword and kill them on the spot. Sir, this child is still young. Please forgive her disrespect. She is our child. We are willing to accept the punishment on her behalf. As long as you let her go, we can accept any punishment. Please have mercy. Chapter 417. Looking at the couple kowtowing in front of her, Wee paused and asked, "What did she do wrong?" The couple couldn't help but froze. The man responded quickly and said quickly, "She stole the adult's food and committed the crime of theft. Please give her a chance, because she is still young." I have to say that the man's words really have some meaning and are not nonsense. Eating the leftovers in front of the nobles is usually considered blasphemy by the nobles. If they are just a few ordinary people and make the nobles unhappy, they will be killed. No one will do it. Give them justice. People in the same village will think that this is caused by their failure to educate their children properly and will not think there is anything wrong with the nobles doing this. They may even think that their behavior of indulging children will bring disaster to the entire village. And stealing food is another crime. If you are caught stealing something in this world, you will definitely be punished. But this kind of punishment will definitely not lead to death. Compared with offending a noble and being beaten to death on the spot, it is already a good ending point. And saying this also downplays the discomfort that the behavior of stealing what the nobles have eaten brings to the nobles. Once people are in a good mood and feel relieved, they might let ordinary people like them go. She didn't eat secretly, and she didn't do anything wrong. Wee shook her head and waved to the little girl again. The little girl looked helplessly at her parents, but her parents were kneeling in front of Wee at this time, not daring to look up at all, and naturally unable to give any feedback. After hesitating for a while, probably because she felt that the big sister in front of her was always very gentle, the little girl timidly walked up to Wee. Wee bent over and squatted in front of the little girl, letting her white dress fall to the ground and collect dust. She found that, although the little girl's clothes were shabby, she was very clean. They were not as dirty as some of the ordinary people she had seen when she traveled to the mainland before, and there were piles of fleas hidden in their hair. This discovery couldn't help but make Wee, who has a misophobia, feel very good. She stretched out her hand to help the little girl smooth the messy hair on her forehead, and she said warmly, "Why are you picking up something to eat?" The little girl said timidly, "Hungry." "Ah, you hungry?" Wee's eyes flickered, but her tone remained gentle. "It's just after lunchtime. Why are you hungry? Didn't you eat at noon?" "Lunch." The little girl seemed to be unfamiliar with this term. She thought for a while before saying, "I had it this morning." "What? To eat? Boiled beans? How many meals do you eat a day?" The little girl didn't know why the beautiful elder sister in front of her asked these questions, but as she communicated, she was no longer so scared, and her speech gradually became smoother. After hearing the words, she immediately said, "2 meals. Is it all Pac-Man? Sometimes I cook wheat with beans, and sometimes I eat wheat bran cakes. Wheat and wheat bran cakes are not delicious. They are very hard. I don't like them." "Have you ever eaten meat?" "Meat?" The little girl seemed to think of something beautiful and said with some longing, "I have eaten it before. My father caught a very big field mouse half a year ago. We ate it together as a family. It was very delicious." "Ah, you eating twice a day?" "No, I only had 2 meals recently. My parents said that the harvest this year was good. Her Majesty the Queen is kind-hearted and only collected 50% tax, leaving a lot of food, so I can have 2 meals. But there are only my brother and me at home. Eat 2 meals, and my parents and brothers and sisters only eat 1. Because of what happened here, many accompanying Mencho and city personnel had gathered around. After hearing the little girl's words, many officials looked at each other in confusion. Some of them moved their eyes obviously uncomfortably and were already sweating profusely. "When did you pay your taxes?" Wee tried to keep her voice gentle. But this problem was obviously beyond the little girl's understanding, and she had no choice but to look to her parents for help again. "Get up and tell me." The 2 of them did not dare to stand up and remained kneeling on the ground. The man said tremblingly, "During the autumn harvest just a month ago, sir, did we not deliver enough food? We will make up for it now." We stood up, looked at the thin little girl in front of her, then looked at the sallow and skinny villagers in the distance, and suddenly sneered. A large group of senior officials from Mengchuan City immediately knelt down behind them. The little girl and her family were so frightened that they were at a loss. Then I heard we say, "No need to make up for it. Go back and inform everyone in the village that we will have extra food tonight." The man, who had always behaved very calmly, couldn't help but be stunned. He subconsciously wanted to look up at the noble woman in front of him who said something he didn't understand. Fortunately, his reason still prevailed, allowing him to stop this offensive behavior in time, and said quickly, "I'll go notify you right away." After saying that, he took the little girl and his wife and left here as if they were running away. Only we, who was standing on the ridge of the field by the roadside, and a large group of noble officials kneeling on the ground were left. If I remember correctly, 2 months ago, I announced the cancellation of all taxes in the territory and distributed enough rice and salt to every household to have 3 meals a day. Right there was a chill in Weiwu's voice, and her eyes fell on one of the officials. "If I remember correctly, last month, I opened a batch of grain and let you use this batch of grain to feed livestock, and then take part of it to merchants to exchange for cattle and sheep. Starting from last month, 1 pound of meat will be distributed to all residents of the kingdom every month." Right. Is she short of food? Of course she is not short of food. The batch of food that Sui gave her was originally intended to be enough for more than 2 billion aliens in the north to survive the entire winter and last until the autumn harvest next year. Later, because he got too much food in the interstellar world, he simply gave her a full 10 billion tons. From that time on, she directly announced the exemption of all food taxes in the territory. And that was more than 2 months ago. A month ago, as we came into contact with more and more knowledge about Blue Star, she was willing to give more benefits to the people in the territory. So she waved her hand and directly allocated a full 1 billion tons of grain, allowing the officials of Mengchuan City to use this grain as feed for livestock breeding, and to give all the people in the territory a pound of meat welfare every month. Because temporary breeding would definitely be too late even with magic, so some of the grain was for them to trade with those big chambers of commerce and exchange for a batch of meat to be distributed first. And now, what did she see? The hundreds of millions of tons of grain she had distributed on the books were missing, and the complete exemption of grain tax turned into only 50% tax. As for the free meat, these ordinary people probably didn't dare to do such a thing in their dreams. Chapter 418. Can anyone give me an explanation? Faced with Weiwu's questioning, a group of officials trembled, and no one dared to say a word. "You're not even talking, are you? Then I'm going to take the role." Wells, you are the Minister of Finance. You have always been in charge of the money and food of the Mengchuan kingdom. You speak first. Hearing this, a fat middle-aged man said quickly, "Your Majesty, I can explain." "Yeah, I'm listening." This, Your Majesty, I'm doing things according to your orders. These must be the good deeds of those greedy insects below. Give me a chance. I will return to Mengchuan City now. I promise that tomorrow I will bring all the people involved in this matter to you." Earl Wells kowtowed. "Is this your explanation?" We sneered. "Of course you can't give an explanation. I heard that you bought 6 luxury houses in the imperial capital, tens of thousands of acres of farmland and more than a dozen castles outside the imperial capital. Recently, you also added 7 or 8 new concubines, 4 of whom are already pregnant. A mansion in the imperial capital near the palace costs tens of millions of gold coins. Even I can only have a courtyard thanks to the reward from the late emperor. The earl is really quite wealthy. I thought you were sitting in this position. Even if you were greedy and got some benefits from it, you should do something. In addition, there was really no one under you who could use it, so I didn't touch you. Do you really think I am? Don't you know anything? But obviously, I still underestimated your greed, Queen." Earl Wells wanted to quibble, but Weiwu waved her hand impatiently. Immediately, 2 knights stepped forward, pressed him down, and covered his mouth. so that he could not speak a word. After dealing with one person, we had no intention of stopping, and turned to look at the other person. Viscount Lowe's, as the Minister of Supervision, your duty is to supervise all officials in the kingdom. Is there anything you want to say? The short and thin middle-aged man who was named quickly said, Her Majesty the Queen clearly understands that it is not that I'm derelict in my duties, but that the Earl of Wells family is too powerful and is usually domineering. With his protection, we are completely unable to investigate the entire financial aspect. Officials related to finance cannot check. In such a large kingdom, you don't know whether hundreds of millions of people have eaten the food I distributed. I have not seen relevant information in any report. We seemed Xiaofei smiled and said, is it because you can't investigate, or you don't dare to investigate, or you are simply colluding with each other, deceiving the superiors, and hiding the truth from the inferiors? No, absolutely not, Her Majesty the Queen. Viscount Luz repeatedly cried out that he was wronged and kept defending. The content is mostly about how Earl Wells used his power to bully others and how he coerced and lured him. He had no choice but to turn a blind eye to these things. Wei was upset when she heard this, waved her hand and said, take away. Immediately, 2 more burly knights came forward and escorted this man away. However, this matter was not over yet. We went directly to this pastoral wilderness and took down all the officials from all departments related to this matter by name. No matter who was involved directly or indirectly, or who was supposed to be supervising, but failed to convey any relevant information to her. No one was spared. As for why only the heads of these departments were arrested instead of arresting everyone, of course, it's because only these high-ranking officials are accompanying them this time, and the people below are not qualified to accompany them, and are not here now. Rather than we were intending to turn a blind eye and only punish the culprit. After a series of naming and accountability, less than half of the accompanying senior officials of the Mengchuan kingdom were arrested. The rest are almost officials who theoretically have nothing to do with this matter. We glanced at the remaining people and sneered. This time we will follow the procedure. I'm only looking for people related to this matter. Whether the rest of you don't know about it at all, or do you know it, but pretend you don't know, because you received benefits or other reasons, I don't bother to ask. I know very well why they, or you, do these things. They just think that the Mengchuan kingdom will end sooner or later, and they want to make as much money from their positions before the kingdom is destroyed. I know better, especially after I issued the edict to declare war. During this time in the world, your behavior of seeking benefits is the most rampant. Now I don't know if you regret the things you have done, but there is no regret medicine in this world. It is best for you to pray that I will never know what you have done, or to pray that you have never done it at all. These things, all the officials who had not been carried out were sweating profusely and lowered their heads tightly, not daring to raise their heads after we said these words. She no longer cared about them. She looked at the dilapidated village and the skinny villagers looking at it timidly, and she didn't know what they were thinking. Your Majesty, if we don't start our journey tonight, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the next city in our itinerary. Guard Chuck reminded. No need. We glanced at the setting sun and said calmly, we will settle here tonight, and the camp will be set up in the field. Are you here? Chuck was stunned for a moment, then hesitantly said, isn't this place too simple? Many things may be very inconvenient, and you may not be used to it. Isn't it just staying in a tent for one night? I've stayed there before, so just go and do it. Well, okay then. Chuck was about to do it, but halfway through, he seemed to remember something, and turned back and said, by the way, Your Majesty, I looked at the extra meals you mentioned just now. There should be thousands of households in this village, with a total population of about 6,000 to 7,000 people. It's probably difficult to provide extra meals for so many people at the same time with the meat we brought with us. If you insist on doing this, I can only send someone back to the city right now to bring back the necessary things. No need to go. I have my own way to solve these small problems. We waved her hand casually, and before Chuck could say anything else, he saw Weewa's eyes fall on the group of captured senior officials of Mengchuan City, who said that the supplies we brought are not enough to feed the whole village. Isn't This'll meet. Come on. Take all these people away and cook them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419. We were said to cook them, so of course these people had to be cooked. But in the end, she still didn't let the villagers eat these blood-sucking worms, mainly because she remembered that Suyi had said before that people who eat people are very likely to be infected with a virus, and this thing is almost incurable. She didn't know if there was any difference between the people of Blue Star and the people of the magic world. Even though the villagers who were watching could hardly hide their desire after smelling the meat in the pot, and they didn't mind eating these. We gave up the idea for safety. Of course, the main reason was that this was really disgusting. But it was definitely not okay to let those people go. After cooking these people in public, she asked people to take the meat out of the pot and feed it to the dogs in public. As for the food promised to be added to the villagers, it was naturally sent by the people of Mengchuan City without stopping. It was already late at night when it arrived. When the real meat smell came out, the sky was pale. Fortunately, it is the off-season, and the villagers have nothing to do. When they heard that a noble lady was kind enough to treat the whole village to meat, they all stayed here, even if they had to stay up all night, fearing that they would miss their share. We watched the hungry villagers feasting on the meat and listened to the endless thanks, but her expression remained calm. She was very angry about what happened today. At first, she thought that the reason for her anger was probably that these officials had deceived her and deceived their superiors and subordinates, but as time passed, she gradually calmed down, and after thinking carefully, she felt that it seemed not to be the case. She actually knew very well what kind of people these noble officials in the northern border were, but no one was using them for the time being, so she had to use these people. Of course, she couldn't be so angry, because these people pretended to obey but violated their will to get benefits. So what was the reason for her anger? Maybe it was a pitiful look of the little girl when she was panicked, like a wounded deer. Before this, we, as a top noble, actually didn't have much sympathy or empathy for these ordinary people. From the education she received since childhood, she was born to be superior to others. She didn't bully ordinary people, only because of the high-sounding doctrines such as don't bully the weak and the aristocratic education. But after meeting Suyi and those ordinary people from Jiazhou, she gradually discovered that those ordinary people who were not seen by her, or by the nobles of the entire magic world, or even despised, seemed not as incompetent as she thought. As long as there is a suitable environment, these ordinary people can still have amazing wisdom and the power to change the world. The weapons on Blue Star are a good proof. When hundreds of nuclear weapons fell on the plains and instantly destroyed most of the elite forces of all forces in the entire magic world, even the gods had to look at it sideways. This is the power that ordinary people can burst out. And ordinary people in the magic world are obviously no less brainy than those on Blue Star. It's just that the environment of this world is not suitable for ordinary people to survive. Just as Wei was thinking about these things, Lillian's voice suddenly sounded beside her. Sister Wei, those villagers want to see you. The villagers want to see me? Wei was stunned for a moment. She was thinking a lot now, but she didn't expect that these ordinary villagers would dare to see her. What's the matter? They said they wanted to thank you. Lillian said. Thank me? Wei raised her eyebrows and became interested. Let's go and see. The two walked out of the temporary camp and saw a large group of villagers gathering outside the camp under the dawn sky. The leader was the little girl they had seen yesterday. Her parents were behind them. When they saw Wei coming out, their eyes revealed awe and some gratitude. After a night, these people naturally knew Wei's identity. They never expected to see Her Majesty the Queen of Mengchuan Kingdom in this remote place. And Her Majesty the Queen was much more easygoing than they imagined. At least when dealing with ordinary people like them, she is very easygoing and easy to talk to. On the contrary, when dealing with those corrupt officials, she is like a cold-faced killing god. From last night to today, there are no less than 500 people who were boiled alive or beheaded at the entrance of the village. The killing is so numerous that the heads are rolling. Of course, the villagers did not know the big figures among these people who were killed, but they knew some of them who were in charge of their area. These officials who used to be high and mighty and bully men and women in the village are now being pressed at the entrance of the village and beheaded like wild dogs. It made many people who had been oppressed breathe a sigh of relief. It also made them realize that this queen seems to be really different from the lords in the past. The lords in the past would not care about these things. As long as the taxes they wanted to collect were in place, the lords did not care about the life and death of these lowly people. It was precisely because they realized that Wee Wee was different that, after eating the food Wee Wee gave them, the villagers gathered together spontaneously, and the scene before them appeared. Seeing Wee Wee coming out, the woman behind the little girl quickly pushed her daughter's shoulder to remind her the little girl was only about 4 or 5 years old, so she naturally didn't know what the queen or empress was. After being reminded, she immediately trotted over the knight in front of Wee Wee, calmly put his hand on the hilt of the sword. But when Wee Wee saw the little girl running over, she smiled and immediately retracted her hand. Her Majesty the queen was obviously in a good mood, and she was more or less sensible. What do you want from me? Wee Wee took the initiative to bend down and looked at the delicate little girl in front of her. Queen, sister, my parents asked me to give this to you. The little girl stopped in front of Wee Wee and handed her an umbrella with both hands. This is. Wee Wee took the umbrella with some doubts and looked at it carefully. She found that this thing was not exquisite at all, and it could even be said to be very simple and not beautiful. It was made of various colorful fabrics, and many of the fabrics were only the size of a finger, mottled and simple. This can be said to be the ugliest gift she has ever received. The village chief and everyone in the village said that the queen is a good person and hope that she could always be our queen. But we don't have any good gifts to give you. Thinking that it will snow soon, we sewed an umbrella together, hoping to slightly resist the wind and snow. The little girl's childish voice spread in the wilderness before dawn. Wee Wee held this simple broken umbrella in her hand, but she felt something else in her heart. Warm tips. The website is about to be revised, which may cause the reading progress to be lost. Please save the bookshelf and reading record in time. We apologize for the inconvenience caused to you. Chapter 420. This is undoubtedly the first time she has received such a simple gift. But this is probably the first time she has received such a carefully prepared gift. While she was thinking, the cold wind howled, and a snowflake slowly fell on her head. The little girl didn't know why she was afraid. When she saw this, she reached out and picked up the snowflake from Wee Wee's head, shook it in front of her eyes and said, "Sister Queen, look, it's really snowing. Hurry up and hold an umbrella." Wee Wee looked at the snowflakes in her hand and then at the broken umbrella in her hand. She didn't know why, but she looked a little dazed. She subconsciously followed the little girl's reminder and opened the funny broken umbrella and held it above her head. The biting cold wind weakened slightly and the falling snowflakes also fell on the umbrella. The first snow in the north this year has arrived as promised. It even came extremely ferociously. After Wee Wee opened her umbrella, the scattered snowflakes turned into heavy snow. But under the flying snow, she and the little girl under the umbrella didn't feel any cold. Of course, although Wee Wee's little cultivation was often ridiculed by Suyui as a rookie, she was still a 7th level expert in both magic and martial arts. A little wind and snow would certainly not make her feel cold or frozen. But holding the umbrella at this time, not only did she not feel the slightest chill, but she also felt a faint warmth surrounding her body. This is. Wee Wee looked at the broken umbrella in her hand in surprise. She could clearly feel that there seemed to be a very special power surging in this umbrella. This power is not magic, nor is it martial arts. It is not even the same spiritual power fluctuation that is unique to the world of immortality. When Suyui uses the 10,000 soul banner, it was a power system she had never seen before. Neutral and peaceful. It also gives people a vague sense of rock solid tenacity. Isolated from the erosion of wind and snow, she could not feel any chill from the north wind. Wow, it just happened to snow. This umbrella can be used immediately. The village chief is so right. The little girl's innocent voice brought Wee Wee back to her senses. Her eyes swept around the villagers and finally landed on the little girl and said warmly, "Can you tell me, sister, who is the chief of your village?" The village chief's grandpa is also here, right there. The little girl looked back at the crowd excitedly, but after scanning around, she said doubtfully, "Hey, where's the village chief? He was here just now." We heard this and looked at an official accompanying her. The official looked strange at this time. He quickly flipped through a thick record file in his hand, and then explained respectfully, "Your Majesty, this village is called Shenglin Village. There is indeed an old village chief named Will. He is 117 years old. He is quite long lived among ordinary people. It's just that if the local records are correct, Will should have disappeared a month ago. He has no children. He used to often tell people in the village that if he really felt like he wasn't feeling well, he should find someone. He died peacefully without bothering the villagers to help with his funeral affairs, so he suddenly disappeared. After the villagers searched nearby for 3 days and couldn't find him, they thought that the stubborn old village chief had done what he said. I found a deserted corner and left the world silently. The local villagers built a tomb for him, and there was no follow-up to the matter. According to previous practice, such village chiefs were appointed by relevant officials from surrounding cities and would be recorded in the city's official office. However, judging from the files, after the old Will disappeared, due to the turbulent current situation, the city's official doesn't care about things here. Shenglin Village probably didn't elect a village chief. Could it be that the village recommended him? We asked with a frown. No. The official was a little unsure, but after flipping through the book, he said firmly, "Definitely not. Recently, similar situations have occurred in other villages in our territory." Later, the villagers elected a village chief to take charge. Usually the elected village chief will bring people to the city's official office to inform them that, because they have no time to manage, our people usually I just admit it, and it will be recorded. There are many such cases recorded in the relevant files of the Mengchuan kingdom. The Northern Territory is not peaceful at all. It is invaded by aliens every 3 days. It is normal for the turmoil to cause no one to care about such small things. Therefore, similar situations have basically formed a set of default practices. Shenglin Village is not a small village. There are thousands of people in the village. There must be people who understand the rules. They should not do such a thing of privately recommending the village chief without reporting to the official office. According to imperial law, this is the same as there is no difference in rebellion. Although we won't send a large army to suppress it, we will be punished somewhat after we discover it. So, this village should not have a village leader now? His eyes flickered, and she felt a little more wary. No. The official was very sure. After a pause, rubbed the little girl's head and said warmly, "Have you found the village chief?" Hearing this, the little girl shook her head in frustration and said, "I don't know where the village chief's grandfather has gone. He was still here just now." "How long have you known the village chief?" We asked in a way that a child could understand. "It's been a long time. The village chief's grandpa is a very good grandpa. He often gives me some delicious food." "How long has he been the village chief?" "I don't know. Grandpa, the village chief, has always been the village chief." The little girl blinked innocently and replied. We felt a little uneasy. These nobles will indeed use their power to make money in some places where they can make money, but in places like this where there is not much money to make, such records should not be falsified. But now that the little girl said this, the records of the government offices in the nearby cities obviously do not match the actual situation. After a slight hesitation, she asked again, "Did the village chief disappear for a while last month? The whole village couldn't find him, even if they looked for him together?" "No." The little girl was surprised. "Why did the village chief disappear?" We opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. For some reason, the umbrella seemed to become a little hot. In the biting cold wind, countless people in her territory were looking at her gratefully. This scene should have warmed her heart. But at this time, when she looked at this village and these villagers again, she inexplicably had a strange sense of absurdity, which made her feel a little uncomfortable. A chill quietly climbed into her heart. The next moment, we seemed to have a flash of lightning in her mind, and she remembered something. This is the only way to go south to the imperial capital or north to Mengchuan City. A few days ago, several royal brothers and a large number of elite troops from all over the country just passed by here, but there was no sign of chaos in this village. This is not normal. Chapter 421. This thought flashed through Weewee's mind for a moment. The warm scene at dawn before her shattered like a mirror. It was like a dream bubble bursting and disappearing in an instant. Weewee suddenly felt like she had seen the blue sky after clearing the clouds. Look at the scene before her again. The road is still the same road, and the biting snow is still falling. But the simple, but neat and orderly village before has completely turned into a ruin of broken walls and ruins. A scene where a large number of villagers gathered before disappeared, replaced by a dead silence. Weewee looked back and found that all her followers were lying on the ground, and they didn't know whether they were dead or alive. But the big pots and the flames under the pots that were set up before were still there, and various human tissues were rolling in the pots, emitting a very strange meaty smell. The long row of unmanned corpses at the entrance of the village was also real, and a large number of heads were piled up on the side. This is what Weewee meant. She wanted to use the heads of these corrupt officials who plundered the people's blood and sweat to build a jingwan at the entrance of the village. Everything was true. The people she killed and the things she did were all true. But the cause of all this, the village in front of her, was fake. Just as she suddenly thought, a large number of elite troops must have passed by the village when they rushed from the south to Mengchuan City a few days ago. In this era, the passage of the army was much more terrifying than the bandits entering the village. Especially this is not the territory of the object of loyalty of these armies. The broken walls in front of her, as well as another large group of ordinary dressed corpses at the entrance of the village that had begun to rot, and a large number of human remains in the ruins, have explained everything. Not long ago, this village was razed to the ground by the chaotic army from the south. The people inside, I'm afraid there are no survivors left. The biting cold rose from behind. Weewee looked at the umbrella in her hand, but found that it was real. At the same time, the soft touch from her right hand also reminded her of one thing. That little girl did not disappear. She looked down and saw that the little girl was not as pretty and clean as before. She looked a little sloppy and embarrassed, but her eyes were still as clear and innocent as before. Seeing Weewee looking at her, the little girl said in a low mood, "Sister Queen, I don't know where the village chief has gone." Weewee's red lips moved, wanting to say something, but she couldn't say it. The strange scene at the moment made her have an impulse to open the trading platform and hide in it immediately. But for some reason, she always felt that if she ran away now, she would lose something important. So after a little hesitation, she still bit the bullet and said in a warm voice, "The village chief may have other things to do. It's cold outside. Why don't we go back to the tent to take shelter?" Tent. The little girl looked back at the magnificent tent behind her and said timidly, Can I go?" "Of course." Weewee answered without thinking. But when she said this, she was stunned for a moment. According to her previous character, it is absolutely impossible to allow such a dirty civilian to enter her residence. But she didn't think of these things before she said this. This is not because of the strange situation at the moment that scared her. If she was forced to say this, she would not answer so smoothly. But in her subconscious, she really didn't regard the little girl in front of her as an inferior civilian. "Great. Thank you, sister. It's so cold outside. I have been freezing for several days. Fortunately, everyone is around me to block the wind for me." The little girl cheered and followed Weewee into the tent. Just hearing her haul, Weewee couldn't help swallowing. At the moment she was about to enter the tent, she subconsciously looked back at the village behind her faintly. She seemed to see an old man with white hair and beard looking at her among the broken walls. The old man's eyes were indifferent, without any ripples, wearing a coarse linen shirt, holding a simple crutch made of rough branches in his hand. Although he looked extremely old, his back was straight, not hunched like other elderly people. But with just one glance, the old man disappeared. Before he disappeared, Weewee saw his lips move, as if he was saying something. She didn't hear clearly, but from the other part his mouth shape, it seemed, "We will meet again." "So, what you mean is that you came here and saw a large number of villagers here and killed a large number of officials for this, and also asked people to send livestock meat from Mengchuan City to give the villagers extra meals. Then, all this is fake. Is it an illusion?" But after the illusion ended, the broken umbrella in your hand was still there, and you really picked up this little girl. At noon, it was still snowing outside, but Weewoo's tent was already full of people. They were basically the gods and demigods of the Chiang family. Originally, the mission of these people was to disperse to various parts of the Chiang Empire to stabilize the situation and prepare the entire empire to welcome the new emperor to the throne. Then they heard that something happened to Weewoo and rushed over. Are you kidding me? Who is Weewoo? She is the most powerful person in the entire Chiang family and the only link between their family and the killer Suyi. This must not go wrong. Of course, these people were not called by Weewoo. They were called by the ancestor Chiang. Because Chiang and Yaoyu, two old gods, were actually part of Weewoo's accompanying troops to the imperial capital, but they kept a low profile and never showed up. As old gods and the top fighting force in the magic world, they would have found nothing unusual about what happened last night. The most outrageous thing is that they were both unconscious like those ordinary followers, and they didn't know what happened at all. When Weewoo asked, Chiang recalled the situation yesterday with sweat dripping down his back, but after thinking for a long time, he could only tell what happened before entering the village. He had no trace of everything that happened afterwards. This kind of heaven-defying illusion, even the two gods didn't find anything unusual and fell into it, which was obviously beyond their cognition. But Chiang is worthy of being an old fox. After hearing Weewoo's description, he immediately found the blind spot. Immediately, they found those followers who were sent by Weewoo to transport supplies to Mengchuan City and to capture officials related to corruption and chop off their heads. Many of the people who were chopped at the entrance of the village were not in Weewoo's entourage at all. They were temporarily captured from other places yesterday. If the scope of the illusion is limited to this area, then the person in charge of finding people will obviously get rid of the illusion. However, after asking, they were even more stupid. Those who left here and returned to Mengchuan City actually had no idea what happened yesterday, and they didn't even know that they returned to Mengchuan City halfway. It's outrageous. Chapter 422. These many clues are connected in series and ultimately point this sudden incident in one direction. That is the mysterious existence that controls the world behind the scenes. Weewoo thought for a moment and asked Chiang, Ancestor, I heard from Suyi that there is such an existence in our world. He should also have heard from the Star Prayer. What a young demigod like the Star Prayer knows, you should know better, right? Now, we seem to be targeted by this existence. I hope you can tell me everything you know. I will discuss with Suyi later on how to deal with it. Chiang couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard this. Well, I'm afraid I can't tell you much. There is such a being in the magical world who has always existed behind the scenes, controlling everything in the world and even using various means to bend the development direction of the world, causing us practitioners to embark on the wrong path. All of this is actually our speculation, and there is no evidence at all. There are two main reasons for this speculation. One of them is that after many people have reached our level of cultivation, they can't find a way forward, no matter how hard they practice. They think this is caused by errors in our current cultivation system itself. And the other reason is heaven. There is a wider world above the 9 heavens. The environment there is more suitable for practitioners to practice, and the resources are more abundant. This is something that the gods know, but even as gods, it is difficult for us to reach that world. It has long been difficult for us to reach that world. Some gods have tried it. There is a limit to our flying height. Once certain limits are exceeded, the gods will die. Over time, many people who have reached this realm believe that some kind of power intervention has misled our cultivation path, so they speculated that such a person exists. In fact, from the beginning to the end, apart from speculation, no one has seen this person. It is possible that all those who have seen him are dead. Weewoo frowned when she heard this. In other words, it's hard to say whether there is such a person behind the scenes in our world. The existence of such a person who controls the world behind the scenes is something that most people in our circle of gods recognize. Because if you look at the history of the development of civilization in the entire magical world, there are too many coincidences. But it's true that no one has seen him, and there's no clear evidence that he exists. There are also some gods who believe that problems with the cultivation path are the result of natural evolution. Today's magic and martial arts cultivation path actually existed millions of years ago. There is no evidence of how it emerged. Similarly, some people believe that the reason why we can't reach the higher sky is because it is a restricted area of life. If the gods go there, we will die because we are not strong enough. In short, there are occasional opinions. The view that there is this person behind the scenes is the mainstream, but in the end it is just speculation. Chiang could only smile bitterly in return. There are so many gods in the magical world. Some have done evil things over the years, and some have done good deeds. He even heard from some older gods that during the barbaric period hundreds of thousands of years ago, there were gods from the ancient times who even threatened to slaughter all living creatures in the world. He really did it, and almost succeeded. Almost half of the world was slaughtered to death by this god and his minions. They not only kill people, they don't even spare animals and plants. Everything they pass by will be burned to the ground, polluted by special divine power, and become a restricted area for life. However, this god is extremely powerful, and there are a group of following gods around him. It is an extremely powerful group. Even if ordinary gods can't stand it, they are no match for them. At that time, the entire magical world believed in the theory of the mastermind. The most seeing a massacre of this scale, all the gods who were not directly involved in the matter thought that they did not need to take care of it at all. If someone did such a sinful thing, the beings behind the scenes would definitely take action. However, the result was that this crazy god almost killed most of the entire world, and the so-called existence behind the scenes never appeared. Finally, the other gods whose living space was extremely compressed could no longer bear it, and spontaneously formed an alliance. Only then did they defeat that group of gods and save the world. After this incident, many different voices emerged regarding the existence of the person behind the scenes. Many people began to think that this person was simply a figment of many people's imagination. There is no such thing. Today's cultivation system emerged naturally. The reason why you can't go to high altitudes is because the gods are not strong enough to survive in that environment. Until now, although it is the mainstream to believe that there are gods behind the scenes, there are also many who do not believe it. Hearing this, we suddenly remembered something Suyi told her, and after thinking about it, she said, as for the second point, the fact that the gods cannot leave the earth and go to the 9 heavens is not because of lack of strength. How? Do you know? Chiang frowned, because, in another world, Star Prayer has gone up there. We sighed and briefly told her what Suyi told her about Xinghan leaving the atmosphere and physically traveling across the universe on the blue star. That is to say, there is no limit to the sky in the blue star world. Even not only the demigod of Star Prayer, but also ordinary people can reach the 9 heavens at will, as long as they take good protection, and even swim in the stars. Chiang was a little afraid to talk to him. Could it be that there is some difference between the two worlds? The sky conditions in our world are different from theirs. Do you think the Star Prayer is a 3-year-old child who can't even tell the difference? Wee rolled her eyes, and then said, and I remembered another thing. Remember the ultimate weapons from Blue Star that we used that day? Nuclear bomb? Chiang has a good memory. He only heard Wee mention it once afterwards, and he hasn't forgotten it yet. That's it. Actually, this is a very complicated technology. Nuclear bombs themselves cannot fly. Vehicles are needed to accelerate them into the sky and then drop them. Some of the principles here are quite complicated, and I can't explain them to you clearly in a short time, but there is one thing that is very wrong when I think about it now. What? Nuclear bombs and their vehicles. That is, the flight altitude of intercontinental missiles mentioned by the Blue Star people. Wee said solemnly, the people of Jiuzhou told me that after this kind of intercontinental missile is launched, it usually moves forward and accelerates at 1,000 kilometers and will re-enter the atmosphere when it is about to reach its destination. And because the environment of our world is different from that of the Blue Star, the intercontinental missiles they designed for use here have a higher flight altitude, even exceeding 3,000 kilometers. At this point, she stared at the ancestor with a smile. Have you been to a place 3,000 kilometers above the ground? Chapter 423. Chiang was speechless for a moment. Of course, there are many people who can cultivate to the realm of gods and do not believe in evil. After many gods reach this realm and hear that there is such a thing, they will die trying to see how high they can fly. Chiang has never done this before. He is not someone who is not afraid of death, otherwise he would not kneel down at the speed of light after seeing Su Yi's power, completely ignoring the aura brought by his status as one of the strongest gods, the founder of the Blazing Sun Empire, and the ancestor of Wei and Majesty. But I have never eaten pork, but I have seen pigs running away. When many gods seek death, they like to invite friends or take the initiative to spread the word so that other gods can come and watch the ceremony. He has lived for hundreds of thousands of years and has seen too much. In his impression, if a god keeps flying into the sky, there is indeed an upper limit to the height it can fly to. It was probably about 500 or 600 kilometers above the ground, and if you flew any higher, you would definitely die. From the day he became a god, he had seen more gods die at that height than he could count on one hand, and they often died suddenly without any warning. Then the whole person will turn into ashes, not even the body will be left, and the cause of death will remain a mystery. But now, we told him that even the gods could not reach a height, but those man-made objects made by ordinary people in Blue Star could easily reach it. What the hell is the difference between this and a fantasy story? Those Blue Star people have done much more in-depth research in this area than we do. According to them, there is essentially no difference between the starry sky in the magic world and the starry sky in the Blue Star world. The only difference is that the planet in our world is much larger than Blue Star. The various items they launch into the sky need to recalculate various data and adjust various parameters. They have a dedicated team that is studying this issue. Currently I heard that progress has been made and the first Magic World communication satellite is planned to be launched into the sky within a week. Their people believe that, since there was no problem in launching those missiles before, of course these satellites can also be launched. We briefly talked about some things she just learned a few days ago. So, our world's starry sky will only prevent the gods from ascending to the sky, but the items created by those people will not be affected in any way. Chiang's face looked a little ugly. He is actually a very pragmatic person who only believes in his own power. After discovering that his power has reached its upper limit, he tries every means to build an empire and expand his family so that his family can occupy more resources. More gods will appear in future generations and he will continue to increase his power. It is naturally impossible for such people to fully believe the unfounded speculation that there is someone behind the scenes controlling the world. The main idea is to remain in awe and not try the law, but deep down, you don't really believe it. Even with the weird thing that happened last night, he didn't quite believe that it was the work of someone behind the scenes. He only thought that it might be an illusion caused by some special phenomenon between heaven and earth. Because this kind of situation has not happened before in the magic world. There are some naturally formed dangers, and even if the gods go there, they may not be able to escape unscathed. Compared to the handiwork of the person behind the scenes, who didn't know whether it existed, he believed it was the former more. But now, the facts were almost before his eyes. Irrefutable. It is impossible to say that the sky in the magical world is intelligent and will ignore artificial objects if they exceed a certain height. If gods like them exceed a certain height, they will be killed immediately, right? As for whether it is possible that the things made by Blue Star are stronger than gods like them and can withstand this special environment, that is even more nonsense. As Blue Star's most powerful weapon, nuclear bombs, may not be able to kill him. Blazing Sun. Is it possible that the vehicle that delivers the nuclear bomb can be stronger than his god's body? At the end of the game, almost all the clues point to one possibility. There really is a being hiding behind the scenes, hunting down these continental gods who are trying to leave the magical world. Forget it. Let me tell you what to do with this. Seeing the confused and helpless look on her ancestor's face, Wei rubbed her brows with a headache. When encountering this kind of thing, she wanted to see if Lao Deng could exchange some gold coins for some secret information and analyze it. Who would have thought that Lao Deng might not know as much as she does in this regard. Being looked at by his descendants with such disappointed eyes, Chiang suddenly lost his nerve and said quickly, "What words?" What words is this? Although I don't know much about this, what you encountered has nothing to do with whether the person behind the scenes exists or not. We must assume that this person does exist no matter what, because what happened last night has indeed exceeded the scope of what the gods can do. It is definitely not the fault of the remaining gods in the world. Then, the top priority now is to think carefully about why people do this. Ancestor, I have lived for more than 100,000 years, and have seen a lot. I have never seen anything. Please tell me what happened last night and let me analyze it for you. Hearing this, Wei was stunned for a moment. Yes, there is no point in proving the existence of the person behind the scenes now. What happened last night was simply not something that gods could do, so now they could only assume that this person existed and then analyze the other party's intentions and be prepared to deal with it. Even if what they encountered last night was indeed some natural phenomenon that they could not understand at all, it didn't matter. At most, they could just treat it as a false alarm. Not to mention, although this old Deng was a bit weak, he didn't even have the courage to fight Suyi in terms of force, and he fell to his knees at the speed of light. In terms of knowledge, he didn't even know whether the legend of the mastermind behind the scenes was true or false. But he didn't live in vain. After living for so long, he was quite accurate in analyzing the main and secondary contradictions and hit the key points at once. So, if there really is such a person, what is his purpose in suddenly doing this? Wei thought for a moment. Her eyes fell on the little girl who was carefully eating the palace cakes and the broken umbrella beside the little girl, thinking, this little girl and this umbrella may be the key. Chiang, the old Deng, followed Wei's gaze and said immediately. In fact, the weirdest part of the whole thing last night was here. The villagers in the peaceful village that Wei mentioned were all fake. But this little girl and the umbrellas given to her by the villagers are real. If all this is the work of the person behind the scenes who controls the world, then this person and this umbrella may be the real key. Chapter 424. After realizing that something was wrong, not only Wei, but also the two old gods Chiang and Yaoi who carefully examined the little girl. At present, it can be confirmed that she is a normal living person. And she is an ordinary person with no outstanding features. If there is anything to say, it is that the little girl is very weak and thin, and it can be seen that she has not eaten for a long time. But many things are abnormal because they are too normal. In such a village, where there is no village in front, and no shop behind, where the rebel army has slaughtered people wantonly and there are dead people everywhere, there is such a little girl. Is this reasonable? Apart from anything else, it has been at least 10 days since the rebel army passed by here and rushed to Mengchuan City to snatch the gate of time and space. Even if she survived the rebellion by chance, a 5 or 6 year old girl with no ability to survive should have starved to death after so long. Even if she really found some food hidden by the murdered villagers to support her until now, the current environment of the village is definitely not suitable for a girl like her to survive. This village is quite remote. The nearest village is 30 or 40 kilometers away, and if nothing unexpected happens, the other village should have encountered the same situation and died out. In other words, there may be few living people within hundreds of kilometers around. The magic world is not Blue Star under the technological system of Blue Star. The beasts themselves have no special abilities. Except for a few large beasts, most beasts have no resistance to armed humans. The living space of beasts will be extremely compressed, and it is rare to see various beasts around human gatherings in this world. Various beasts contaminated with magic and a large number of messy monsters are not something that ordinary people can deal with. Therefore, the scale of existence in the magic world is generally large, with hundreds or thousands of households and thousands or even tens of thousands of people in a village. This is not that the magic world likes to stick together, but living in this kind of wilderness far away from the city, they can only stick together to drive away the beasts and monsters and live a stable life. In a village where thousands of people died and no one was found alive within a radius of hundreds of kilometers, there were still a large number of corpses of villagers in the village. Before Wei's accompanying army arrived, this place had probably become a paradise for various wild beasts and monsters. Wei took people to the village to take a look after dawn. Many of the remains of corpses in the village had traces of being gnawed by wild beasts. Many corpses had even been gnawed into a pile of bones before they had time to rot. This proved that many beasts had visited this village with corpses everywhere recently. In such an environment, how did a little girl who was powerless survive? For those beasts, living people are much more delicious than dead people. Those beasts or monsters who visited the village would never let her go. This little girl who was alive was a huge mystery in itself. As for the umbrella, it was even more special. Chiang had seen it himself. It also proved that the feeling we had when she first got the umbrella was not an illusion, but real. This umbrella is indeed surrounded by a special power, which is completely different from magic and martial arts. At least Kai Yang can't understand it at all. However, as an old man who has lived for more than 100,000 years, he soon discovered the function of this umbrella after trying it. That is defense. This tattered umbrella is actually tougher than he imagined. Originally, Kai Yang wanted to tear off a piece of cloth from the sewn rags to study it after discovering that there was a special power in this umbrella, but after trying it, he found that with his divine power, he couldn't even tear off a piece of cloth. This thing only looks rotten, but it is actually very tough. Just relying on this it has stronger defense than most of the magic tools in the magic world now. And not only that, this umbrella itself can also form a defensive barrier, which can resist various forms of attacks including, but not limited to mental attacks, magic attacks and physical attacks, but it seems that the defensive barrier will only take effect when Wei holds it in her hand, and it will have no effect when it is held by others. Even the little girl holding this umbrella is useless. However, the strength of this defense is far from being very strong. Compared with the toughness of the umbrella itself, the defense of the barrier is actually very weak. At most, it can only resist the attacks of 3rd and 4th level magicians or warriors. If it is higher, it will not work, and it will defeat this special shield. From this point of view alone, the effect of this umbrella is quite cumulative. After all, even Wei, a rookie, is a 7th level master who practices both magic and martial arts. The defense on the umbrella is completely useless to her. This is Chiang's point of view. After Wei discovered these functions of this umbrella and could not find other uses, no matter how she tried, she always felt that the function of this umbrella should be more than this, but she has not discovered it yet. They analyzed for a long time. In addition to finding some special uses of this umbrella, they were still confused about the reasons and purposes of the people behind the scenes. It was completely confusing. Unable to understand the analysis, Wei subconsciously wanted to go to the trading space to ask Suyi. But she thought of what Suyi said before he left, asking her to take a good look at her world and the people living in this world, and then go find him after she understood everything. He hesitated for a moment, but finally did not go to Suyi to discuss this emergency. The convoy stayed in this village for a whole day and 2 nights. Finally, on the morning of the next day, they set off again. Wei executed all the officials who participated in deceiving the superiors and subordinates, embezzled the food of these ordinary people, and continued to collect taxes from ordinary people. The beheaded people filled the entire village in trance. Then she sent people to collect the bones of the villagers who were killed in the chaos and buried them one by one in a place around. At the same time, she ordered the chief official of Mengchuan City to check the damage of all villages in the territory in this war. This was actually completely unexpected by Wei. She had never thought that these elite armies of various forces who came to rob the gate of time and space would take time to do these things in their spare time. So not only did they not prepare countermeasures, but they also had no aftermath mechanism. They could only make up for the loss now. As for the distribution of supplies, after she killed so many people in one breath, I believe no one would dare to deceive the superiors and subordinates again. After all, we only have one life. Even the greediest people would not dare to come again in the near future after seeing Wei kill so many people in a rage. Chapter 425. The experimental reactor has been built. Yi, who had been working as a salted fish for many days, was a little surprised. According to the estimated time, this nuclear fusion experimental reactor should have been completed about a month ago. But then something unexpected happened during the construction. The main reason was that he obtained more relevant information from Beilu. After obtaining the information, Xianshu found that there were many areas that could be improved. In addition, as the Kunpeng starship entered the Xianyu group, but it stayed in the sky for a long time and basically did not have to do anything. So Xiangxun, the AI on the starship, was busy every day, while Xianshu was extremely busy. Then he mobilized part of Xiangxun's computing power with the blessing of this part of the computing power, and based on the newly acquired information, Xianshu redesigned the Blue Star's first nuclear fusion reactor almost from beginning to end. Not only did its power generation efficiency increase by more than 5 times compared to the original level, it also updated the fusion materials in its original design. This nuclear fusion reactor could only use helium-3 as fuel, but now it is different. Helium-3 is only one of the fuels it can use. A large number of elements such as deuterium and tritium can be added for fusion power generation, and the efficiency will not increase. And on this basis, this reactor does not need to increase the floor space, or even requires less space than before. With the blessing of this series of new technologies, and considering that the original fusion nuclear power plant itself was not completed, Xianyu Group and Jiazhou jointly carried out a transformation that was almost to the level of demolition and reconstruction. That's why it was delayed for so long. So much so that if Xianshu didn't say anything, Suyi almost forgot that there was such a thing. Yes, not only has it been built, but all data testing has been completed. We are fully prepared. We are just waiting for you, sir, to participate in the ignition ceremony and press the button that attracts world attention. Hearing this, Suyi didn't feel too disturbed in his heart. To be honest, he did have this plan when he was preparing to build this nuclear fusion reactor, because to a certain extent, nuclear fusion technology is almost equivalent to unlimited energy, and it is basically equivalent to a sign that human civilization has entered a new era. In this case, he naturally did his part to press the start button to turn on the reactor, but it's different now. With the emergence of starships and the establishment of the gate of time and space, Blue Star has gradually moved to a new level. Although the emergence of nuclear fusion can greatly improve people's livelihood, the problem is that compared with the previous things, it is far from being such an epoch-making product for Blue Star civilization. So much so that Suyi was somewhat uninterested. Just let me press the button. Let someone else do it. The limelight can't let me do it all by myself. Suyi stretched and then said, I can just go to the celebration party after success. Xianshu certainly has no opinion on this. Okay, then I'll make the arrangements according to your instructions. The ignition time has been set for this afternoon. There should be a celebration party tonight. The itinerary and car have been planned for you. Do you want to bring a female companion? Let Yuling, forget it. Let's all go. It's not a problem to stay at home every day. It's just time for them to go out and get some air. Suyi waved his hand. The women here, of course, refer to not only Yuling and Xinghan, but also the bunch of captives in their own family. People like Sumeng, Suiying, Unki, and Anning. Anyway, they will probably live in Blue Star for a long time in the future, so it would be good to take them to see the world. Okay, I have arranged the itinerary for you. Several ladies have arrived in Blue Star for the first time and do not have many suitable clothes yet. I have also contacted the professional clothing team, and someone will come to the door later to provide special clothes for these ladies. Tailor-made gowns. Xianshu was very considerate, but what he said almost made Suyi spit out blood. What are you talking about? These other ladies. There are only 2 ladies in the house. Do you understand the 2 of them? Isn't Miss Yang a madam? Xianshu asked curiously. Yang? Yai. Forget it. There are 7 ladies in that family. Now, forget it. I don't blame you. Just go and play. Suyi waved his hand helplessly. What is this, if not artificial retardation? As soon as I opened the door, 7 ladies came, which was outrageous, but this is probably related to the logic of her algorithm. Normally, she would only judge other people's social status, or their status in the family, based on Suyi's attitude towards other people and the way they interact with them. The nominal title is not the criterion for her judgment point. Although the other 4 are maids brought back by Suyi, they are also calling them master every day. But from Xianshu's point of view, Suyi obviously did not use these 4 as maids, so this misunderstanding occurred. The house that had always been quiet became uncharacteristically lively in the afternoon. The costume design team that Xianshu contacted was on Penglai Island, and now they came directly to provide door-to-door service. The 4 new women are not unfamiliar with this situation. After all, they all held high positions before, and the clothes they wore in the magical world were also designed and made by the top tailors. Naturally, if you want to make some new clothes, you can't go to someone else's door. They always have tailors come to their door to listen to their requirements and design. This pattern is actually very familiar to them. However, they were very curious about how the clothes would be designed according to their sizes on Blue Star. Suyi had no intention of hiding the identities of the 4 of them, so the news had already spread within the Xianyu group, and 4 wives of the chairman from another world had come to the chairman's home. The design team was stationed on Penglai Island, and of course they had heard similar gossip. So, after measuring the sizes, because they were afraid that the style they designed would not be liked by people from another world, the team's main designer carefully approached Suyi and asked him what style of design he liked. The things that happened in the magic world had already spread on Blue Star. Who doesn't know who is the real boss of the Xianyu group, and who really holds the unmatched superpower? Since they didn't know what style the people in the magic world liked, in order not to offend anyone, they simply asked Suyi's opinion directly. After all, this thing was designed mainly for Suyi to see, and others probably didn't dare to look at it too much. As long as Suyi liked it after seeing it. Whether these women from the magic world liked it or not was secondary. Suyi, who was playing games with Xinghan in the living room, really didn't expect that this would have anything to do with him. He said without thinking, "Just do it, don't be too ugly or too unique. With their looks and figures, what can't they wear?" The head of the design team hurriedly said, "That's right, the ladies are all naturally beautiful, and they look like clothes hangers. We are worrying too much and disturbing Mr. Su. No, it's okay for the AI to talk about the ladies all the time, but what? You are also an AI. I look so hungry. These women in my family can only be ladies." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.